Hey everybody, it's another edition of Comics Cast. Let it out. And it's another beautiful Sunday, June 19th. It is Father's Day. So I want to wish all of our fathers that are in the audience happy Father's Day, and my father as well. And yeah, it's a great Sunday, and it's even greater because today we have a spectacular guest. And before I get to talking about that guest, I want to tell you guys a little bit about what Comics Cast is about. So Comics Cast is all about the indie creator. If you're a writer, a penciler, an inker, a colorist, publisher, you name it, we want to get eyes on you. And Comics Cast is all about getting eyes on your talents and to share them with the world. Let It Out, which is what this show is a kind of a draw and a talk conversation type interview where we have a chance to talk with a creative talent, a indie creator, and get to know them a little bit better and share their talents with you. And you get to see the magic happen as I draw along with them and they share their OCs, their IPs, and it's all going to be a fun ride. So that being said, my guest for today is Mr. Brad Voth. The guy, I think he needs no introduction. He is a talented illustrator as well as animator. He's a teacher. He's a writer. You're going to get to hear the full story about Mr. Brad Voth, but I tell you, you're in for a treat. So without further ado, let's get the show started. Here we go. Hey, I want to say welcome to you, Mr. Brad Voth. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, actually.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
And I want you to take a moment just to take it all in, because I know that you want to be here on Comics Cast with me today on Father's Day. And I just want you to say hello to everybody in our audience. So just take a quick shout out.
It's happening.
Okay, no problem.
How's it going?
Oh, it's all good. We're gonna get this thing smooth. We had a little bit of a hiccup earlier, right before the show, and that's why we're just a tad bit late. But I'm gonna promise you this is gonna be an awesome show because I've been talking to Brad. I met Brad, I guess it's been about a year now. We were a part of a very cool contest that was put on by another friend of Comics Cast, Mr. Philip Russert, and that was the Tragedy Issue 1. Oh, there it is. It was an issue 1 cover contest, and I have to tell you, all the submissions were so cool. And Philip, being the guy that he is, he's all about like putting people together, and I reached out to Brad, and we've been friends, but it was only until recently that we actually got to know each other a little bit better beyond just the getting to know, hey, your art is awesome, like post. But here we have. I'm so happy to have you here, and you are awesome. And we're just going to move the show right into the origin story. Now, for those of you who are just new to the show, the origin story is basically where I put the mic back in the hand of our guest, and they get to tell their creative journey from when they started drawing all the way to where they are right now. So that being said, I'm going to pull up some artwork that Brad was able to share with me, and it'll be like a visual backdrop to his creative journey. So mic is in your hand, Brad. Go ahead and tell us your origin story.
Well, as most people that are our age, it's probably Star Wars is probably where it all came from for me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember being 7 and just being enthralled with it, and just that's where it began with me. And then, Saturday morning cartoons, basically, that's kind of where it started with me. Captain Caveman, Ren and Stimpy come a little later than that, but the Hanna-Barbera stuff, and it just bloomed from there. I mean, it just, it's comic books is really, I started, I mean, I was probably 6 when I started collecting those, and I never stopped. And so.
So you didn't have you didn't have those kids in school that were like, pestering you once your artistic talents bloomed. They were like, oh, hey, Brad, can you draw this for me? Hey, Brad, can you draw that for me?
I think that's happening now, though. It's like, oh, hey, man, I need a tattoo. Can you do that for me? I'm like, not for free, no.
Well, I guess it's good, because if that had happened in elementary school and some kid asked for a tattoo, I think crayons and Sharpie markers probably wouldn't sit too well with the parents. But that
Gotta
just goes to
answer to my
show.
parents. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, it goes to show that your artistic journey started early, and just like I think that we're pretty close in age, and because I had the same influences growing up as well. Loved comic books, loved Star Wars. Definitely kicked off that creative spark in me.
Speak of the
And
devil, there's Phil.
yeah, and I'm here. I'm like looking at all this stuff, and we're gonna go through this artwork. And I mentioned before that you're a talented illustrator, animator, as well as teacher. But let's just talk about the illustration part of this right now. Now I know these things here are cards from Upper
Yes.
Deck,
Yes.
and yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into that and some of your fun things?
I've got a couple friends of mine that do it, and they were one of them fronted me a name, so I sent some 5 or 6 cards in, and it took them a year to get back to me. I mean, it's just they've got so many people working for them. They got projects until they could work me in, I guess, and hit me up, and I did them for about did probably 16 sets probably over the last couple years.
16. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I lost track of it. They come run after another, so it's been a wild ride on that. So
Yeah, I can see like just the diversity of the characters. I think were you able to pick the characters that you drew, or did they give you
basically
a
they give you a list of the characters that are banned basically, and then you're supposed to stay away from those. And
are banned? Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
well, they have to do with the movies and the movie rights, and it's a long difficult process because there was some sets where they had to have the actors for the movies approve the cards and approve what characters went on the cards. I don't know, it was kind of a goofy thing. It was one set, I think, but
well, I think that I've heard a lot of stories about people's or artists' individual experiences by doing Upper Deck cards. We don't have to go there, but I'm going to have to say that at least you can add that to your resume.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea you did so many different sets. So you might want to, I think of our audience, you might want to scour eBay and maybe check out and see if you can find some Brad Voth original artwork. Because also you mentioned to me that the cards that you did weren't the typical small size. You actually did.
I did some 5x7s. I've done. They're considered quads. I think they're like 4 cards connected, and you're supposed to draw like there's a Venom in there. That's a 5x7 card there. That Thor.
This is what you're talking about right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the Storm one that I had that you showed a little bit ago. That's a quad.
Okay. Let me see if I can find that one. I think it was here. This one.
Yeah,
right
this
here,
one
right?
here. And then the Black Panther that was right before that is actually the opposite side of that card.
Oh,
so
wow.
whoever got that card got a really nice card there. I mean, I don't slouch when it comes to anything. So it's just like these. So I'm just like. I'm hoping somebody has it out there. So
I'm sure they do. They're sitting on a little bit of a gold mine here because I have to say that it's a really really cool card, and I know that some of my friends that have done cards, I don't think they even got proofs. They or their comps. They basically
technically on a sketch card like that, you don't get anything back.
Oh, really? So
it goes out into the world, and you just don't know where it goes, and
yeah, so
I find them on eBay all the time, and the price behind them is like, I wish I got some of that money. So.
Well, all I gotta say is that you get you get to put it on your resume that you worked with Marvel and you drew these great characters, and you're no slouch. I mean, I look at this and it's like you said, I think people got their money's worth. I mean, they got to see, you do digital. We're going to be actually seeing your digital skills, and we've seen some of your digital artwork here, but this is traditional. So I was looking at this and I was like saying your mastery of using traditional media, especially when those cards, even if they were 5x7, some of them are smaller, and you're working on a 1-to-1 ratio, especially on the smaller ones, and it takes a great deal of skill to do that.
And it bothers me when I have to make sure if I'm using a like full body thing on a little card like that, I
Uh-huh.
stayed away from that for the most part and just did headshots and stuff because I'm very particular about what goes out into the world of what, if something isn't very good. And
Mhm.
there were sets that I didn't feel like that I should have sent them in. So I was just like,
Well, that
but
just goes. That's testament to your standard for quality, But
yeah,
I have to say that the stuff that I've seen, it's phenomenal. If I had
well,
gotten
thank you, appreciate
a
that.
set of these cards, if I had gotten one of this, I would have been totally floored. I mean, look at this Venom one here that we talked about this a little bit during the pre-show yesterday. And I have to say, this kind of Venom is a different take. This is actually style. We've seen a lot of different things that you can do. You're a man of many different styles, but they are
Well,
all Voth. Yeah,
the
but this
thing of
one
it
is
is,
really
when I
cool.
started on my journey with Upper Deck, and I, one of the first sets I did was an anime set, and I've never did. I was opposed to ever doing anime with anything, and that's one.
Hmm.
And people were like, "Oh my god!" And I sold out of those cards. I had all of my artist proofs for that set. Boom, they're
Yeah.
gone. So that influenced me to say, well, maybe there's something there that I need to be looking at, because so that sent me on the journey to that Captain Caveman I don't know if you've shown that one yet or not, but
Yeah, we have it right here. Yeah.
yeah, that it sent me on a journey to doing more stuff like that, because that guy right there's childhood stuff, and I've been wanting to draw him for eons. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think you mentioned that this was not only tapping into your childhood nostalgia, but I think you had mentioned before that somebody kind of called you out on coloring, and you sort of said,
yeah,
"You know what? I'm going to show you like what I can color." And I have to say that
yeah.
this is immediately recognizable, Hanna-Barbera through and through. But it's like this next level Hanna-Barbera. It goes beyond that cell shading into this really three-dimensional color. And I have to say that your interpretation of Captain Caveman, if there was like a 3D, a more 3D animation style of Captain Caveman, this would be it. And I guess you said was this like a very popular print when you go to cons? Do
Oh
people
yeah, it's
eat
it,
this up?
and I get just exactly what Allison she just going Captain Caveman. I get that at the shows. I mean, they're
Yeah,
like, "Oh my
exactly.
god!" And I says, "I dare you." And I tell people, I say, "I dare you, walk around the show, you'll not find another one." I says, "That's the
Right.
only one." I said, "I don't know why people don't draw him."
That is so true. That is so true. And speaking of which, I mean, we're gonna keep on going down here with your
Okay.
origin story, and I love the Hanna Barbera stuff, but let's move to some of the more modern things that you've been doing. And here we go. We have the tragedy covers. We mentioned earlier about Philip Russert
Yeah.
being the kind of like the nexus point for you and I in terms of how I met you. And I have to say that in the comment field, we had Philip commenting here. He said, "That guy, really?" Yeah, I know that there's
I
a bit,
there's
a
been
bit of
so much back and forth of that kind of stuff over the last year and a half. Since I've met Phil, it's
uh-huh.
awesome. I love him to death. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's definitely somebody that I mean, a very kind human being,
yes,
talented creator in his own right. We've had him here on Let It Out, and like I said, I would not have known you if it wasn't for Philip Russert and Tragedy. And I looked at your covers here, and I had to say, "Oops, I seem to have lost." Oh,
Ooh,
there we go. Okay, all right. So I lost my camera there for a second, and let me hold on. Let me add that back in. So let me share
okay.
screen. Um, Man, the gremlins are coming out to play today with technology. Okay, here we go. We got your art here again. And I have to say, when I first saw this is the black and white version. And it just shows we have seen your Venom, we had seen your Thor, your Captain Caveman. And then I see this. This is like, it's still very much Brad Voth, but to me, it's a different style. And even for Tragedy, it's a very different take on her. And the thing that, aside from the really cool details, I mean, you can see stitching. I mean, it's that
Mhm,
detailed, but it's her eyes. When I saw this piece, it's her eyes just captivated me, and I have to
mhm.
say that's one of the really unique things about your piece. I'm going to show a couple different pictures, but you want to talk a little bit about what you were doing with your version of
Well,
Tragedy?
Do you want to bring the first one up the one that's the next one down?
This
Yeah,
one.
that one is the original, the one I submitted for the contest, and it's like you're talking about the eyes. I mean, Phil brought that up too. He's like, I really want to focus on her and her eyes, and
Mm-hmm.
the look of torment. I guess it's look of a little bit of torment, or you
Mm-hmm.
get some history in her eyes, and
Yeah.
those are the happy mistakes that go into a drawing. I didn't intend to do that, but
Oh,
it's
wait. I'm gonna say it's 100% intentional. you planned it from the very beginning. No, I totally understand it. Sometimes it's those happy accidents
yeah.
that occur. But yeah, you're right. Keep on talking about this, about how
Yeah,
you.
and then so Breath of the Dragon is the character in the background, and you
Mhm.
want to, I was in love with it, but you gotta take you as a freelancer, and you got a customer in front of you or a client that wants something specific. They
Mhm.
know the character better than you probably do. I could ask 1,000 questions, but it comes down to, okay, he's giving me feedback. I got to listen to it. So the
Mhm.
one on the right side there, the one that's where he's being thrown to the background and kind of
Mhm.
bringing her out more, was
Right.
still all right, but I think it needed, like, I agree with him, after he just needed to go away and concentrate on her and you know so I'm hoping that maybe eventually I can do a companion to the one, the final version that I did, and be able to do
Mhm.
like a Breath of the Dragon to go with this one, that
Oh
I,
gosh,
you know what I mean. So
that would
that'd be
be
kind of cool.
yeah, and I think that way you could utilize that art. I think you did this. Did you do the Breath of the Dragon digitally, or was that?
No, they my process now, after like COVID hit, and I was like, okay, how am I going to redo these? The way I do things, and the way I do it now is I draw traditionally the main part of the
Composition.
composition, and then basically I will add elements of digital on it, like the coloring,
Mm-hmm.
and add the digital coloring, I the thing of it is you lose life when you go completely digital to some degree, unless you're really good
Hmm.
at it.
Right.
To me, that's just an opinion I have. I mean, it's just like, I
Uh,
don't know, there's something about just doing it physically on paper
I understand.
you
Yeah.
got I'm getting to the point, especially with Procreate now, that I can actually merge the two together, and you can't tell either or. So that's kind
Yeah.
of my challenge right now, is trying to find out, okay, how can I go completely
Hmm.
digital and still maintain that life that a drawing has, physical drawing. So
Yeah, and I think that you were able to. I believe you were able to digitally remove the Breath of the Dragon from this piece. So I think that even as a foundation, you could take that out, bring it to your light board, redo it, and then I was looking at here. Philip was even saying when you mentioned doing a companion piece, he says it will happen. So you've heard it from the creator himself.
well, we
I
we
think
talked the other
he's
day, so I was just like,
yeah,
he's such a great guy, and everybody wants to work with him. So
yeah.
it's just that thing. You got to wait your turn again if you want to do it again. So I'm busy enough as it is. I can wait a little bit. So I look forward
Yeah,
to
I
doing
think
another
that
one for him. So
people are gonna have to like wait for that next Brad Voth contribution to tragedy. But we talked yesterday about one concept that I think it's this one. Is this the one that
hmm
you mentioned to me before? Where it was
hmm
I want to say it's the ivory edition. You want to talk about how
yeah.
you kind of like you
Well,
did this
I mean,
version?
they talk about happy mistakes. I started stripping stuff out of this, and I get to this thing, and I'm like, this has got a whole different feel than the color version, and I'm like, that's to me, I'm black and white grayscale all the way. I mean,
Uh huh.
I'm so influenced. That's, if you can do 90% of your work in black and white, and then the color just adds to it.
It's icing,
Yeah,
right? Icing on a
it's
cake.
icing. It's you get, your colors are so much better off with a solid foundation of gray and black, and all that underneath it, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
If you can accomplish that much and without doing the color,
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. There's particular artists like Sean Gordon Murphy and those guys, that I appreciate a lot, because they don't even have to have their colorists there. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like boom, it's like, we're done. It's candy. It's finished. So,
Well, I have to agree with you, but I think colorists, it is icing, but great colorists are artists unto themselves, and they can bring out another level. And looking at your piece, the eyes are which are particularly captivating, but in hands of a really good colorist, it can bring another level of emotional like
well,
impact
Phil
that
just Phil
that
just
yeah
commented. Phil just
yeah
commented he's thinking about doing a limited release of it. So
yeah.
that'd
Yeah,
be
I'm gonna
fantastic.
pop it up there. Yeah, and he actually even said this to you. Of course, he corrected his spelling of your name because I think that's your AKA is Bede. But
Yeah.
I know he meant Brad. Is a great
Yeah.
is a great pleasure to work with, and all creators should hire him. That is so true. But yeah, I look at this, and we've seen like this iteration. We have the black and white iteration. We have the no Breath of the Dragon in the background colored version, and then of course the original concept. And it's just neat to see the progression of you working with a client and being able to interpret his character. And in your defense and everybody's defense, we didn't know this was issue number 1, so we didn't know too much
Mhm.
about tragedy. So you kind of like pulled that aspect of her character. I mean, the name of the book is called Tragedy, and the character's named Tragedy. So you were able to for the obvious reasons with her name and her background, which is very complicated, very sad, which I encourage everybody to go out and buy all the issues so you can catch up with it. But you were able to capture that aspect. It's like her eyes have a certain sadness about it, and that's the tragedy part of Tragedy. So enough of plugging Tragedy, because we did a lot of
Well, maybe
contributions
if
to
we
it.
keep
But
talking, maybe you'll give us some more work.
yeah,
It's like,
that's true. That's true. And I think Philip mentioned here back when we were singing his praises. He says you're
yeah.
too kind. So
No,
nothing but yeah.
went into it, and I'm like anybody. I just like when I go in, I want to meet. So you get to know somebody on a personal level as well as a professional level. It just helps the work flow better. It's just a better
Mhm.
understanding between two people. It's just like, So I don't think I'm being too kind. I think I'm singing praises in his. He's a good guy. So.
Uh, yeah, too true. But you're a great guy too. So let's
Well,
keep on going here. I want to talk about this. And we talked about Star Wars.
yes.
And I have to say that this is like a realistic style right that you have right here, and I totally dug this. I mean, look at the attention to details. You can actually see the wires that are in like in C3PO's torso. And then we have I didn't get a chance to organize these as well as I could have, so I need to like scroll through this. And then we have like this. Let me try and find it. This
Okay.
Thor piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of look at this as kind of like a bridge to like some of the stuff that you're doing now, because we have the Hulk, and obviously the Hulk has this massive physique, and then you have Thor here, and Chris Hemsworth, definitely a prime specimen in his own right. But I look at this as kind of like we have Thor here on the right, which is kind of like a realistic anatomy style. I've looked at your work, and you're we were joking around. I was joking around yesterday. It's kind of like Picasso. You have Picasso who came in, and everybody knows him for his abstract artwork. But if you studied him, if you took art history in high school and college like we did, you know that he actually is a tremendous, like, he studied Renaissance art. I mean, he could actually do the great masters, and he was a master of anatomy. And I look at this too. It's like, hey, you can do the Thor, realistic anatomy. It's kind of like you have to know the rules before you can break them. And you have Thor. I mean, he's juxtaposed against Hulk here, and obviously he has a very hulking physique. And then we go to this, which is like the next style that you kind of have moved. This is like you moving. Like if you're going to use the Picasso analogy, it's like you're going from that that classical to the blue period. So I was going to say that. And I like this because I look at this and the anatomy, though it's exaggerated, you got to know how the muscles work. You got to know how it works to pull off something like this. And you want to talk a little bit about how your style kind of evolved from there?
Well, I mean, the thing of it is I love exaggeration. I love texture. I love all that stuff. It's just like, drawing straightforward is fine, but it's just like I like to have fun with the stuff. And, the things that I grew up with, some of the books that I've like, um, Don Simpson's Megaton Man. He's just, he's got this large upper body and a small, tiny waist, and
Uh-huh.
dude's an idiot. It's just like, it's like he's got his visor. If you guys are acquainted with the character, he's just got his visor on, and he's in it. He's in it. He works in an office, and he got his suit on, and there's this one book where he's like, the office is talking, and they're like, doesn't this buffoon know that we know who he is? It's like, it's just the kind of thing I like to, okay, it's just, I just like to have fun, and it's just like, those are the things that I like to take those influences and apply them to this stuff. And this, the characters that you'll see that I've developed for myself are kind of along these lines.
Right. We're gonna go into that, believe me, because like I said, I think it's an evolution of your style. And since we had to this morning, aside from the technical hiccups, I had to add a bunch of artwork that you so graciously sent to me, and I had this PDF ready to go in terms of how I wanted to talk about your style. So unfortunately, I want to go back a little bit to your classical style before we get into this new look that you're doing, but because I know you have a great story to go along with it, and it's this particular piece. I was just immediately floored when I saw this, because aside from capturing the actress's likeness, and I'm going to let you tell the story about how that composition came to be, I look at the inking style that you put on top of not only capturing her likeness, but the inking to me is like the bane. It's like I would rather I don't know what I would rather do, but I hate inking. It's like inking is really terrible to me.
Here's what I'll tell you about inking is when I pencil stuff, it's in one mindset, and then so I shut the pencil off when I work, and then my inking style kicks in, and then that's when I'm like, okay, well. I did this way, but it's only a foundation, and that foundation is never the same as my inking.
I see.
I will go, I'll go in and I'll start changing stuff, and I'm like, well, okay, well, I like washes and I like gouache and stuff, and I'm like, there's a lot of gouache in her mask and stuff, and so you can do a lot of washing with that even after it's dry, and you can do that. And I got a ghostwriter that I did about the same time that his pants should have ash on them and stuff, like the fire's coming out from underneath them. So that's kind of what I was doing with her mask and stuff, around the eyes and
it's incredible. So this is all traditional. This isn't.
Mm-hmm. That's traditional.
I did that. Amazing. I have to say, because I can see there's textured brushes you can get in Procreate that will create this effect. And you did.
Oh yeah, I mean, I bought iPad after I saw everybody and their brother buying it and coming up with all this stuff. And if you guys don't know who Doug Mankey is, go check his stuff out on Instagram. He's animating in that thing, and it's phenomenal. I can't wait to get more in depth with it. I mean, I've dabbled in it, trying to learn more stuff. The more stuff I learn, the more stuff there is to learn. It's unreal. So,
well, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite pieces by you, and
thank you.
I'm going to let you talk a little bit about just the story behind this piece. But before I do that,
I did.
I wanted to focus on because I want to hear the story, because it's really fun. You shared it with me yesterday, but I want to give our audience I'm zooming in here. I want them to appreciate that this is traditional. And actually, when I zoom in here, I can actually see where you've blocked out your blacks, and then if you're not doing it like a 100%. If you're doing it digitally, it's an even black. And now that I've zoomed in here, I can see that you can see the where you've layered this in there, and to be able to pull off like these hair textures and the patterns, for me, this is just cool. I can look at the hair that you did, even these stray hairs atop her forehead. Um, just incredible stuff. And then now that you've talked to me about how you put gouache and you put these effects into her mask, um, phenomenal work, Brad. I think this is
Thank you. Thank you.
just really cool. When you zoom in, you can actually see these things, and it's a testament to your skill, because I can see that there's like brushes you can get for, because I've been researching Procreate brushes, and a lot of my favorite artists, they you can get hatch brushes, you can get these white, the white splatter effects, and
They've even got one that's a light pen. I don't know if you've seen that one where
No.
it's like a lightsaber when you like make a stroke. It's like, it's like,
Okay.
oh, it's like, oh man.
Well, I think I have to say that's cool, and I think that it's neat that they've gotten a brush to that where you can just do that effect. And I'm not going to take away from anybody that uses the light pen that creates instant lightsabers, but I'm going to say that if you can do it traditionally and even if you can do it digitally manually versus using a predetermined brush, these are just tools. You still have to create. You have to have the talent to utilize the tool.
Well, exactly. I mean, you got to know. My opinion is you got to know how to do it traditionally before you can do it digitally. And there are a lot of people that skip over a lot of steps to get to that final product, and you can tell that the structure is
something's
pretty much
missing.
not. There's something that they're trying to manipulate in between there, that it's like, yeah, I see what you're doing and it don't work. So you got to have those steps in there. So
yeah, it's like we said earlier, it's like you got to know the rules, know the foundations before you can like break them or be able to use them effectively. And this piece here, knowing that this is traditional, it blows my mind. But okay, so let's we won't keep our audience waiting. I want to hear the story, because this is a personal connection to you. You met this actress.
Lee Merriweather was at the very first show I did. It's been 6.5 years ago, probably. I had just moved back from Chicago, and so I go to the show, and I'm in line to get an autograph from Lee, and she starts talking about Adam West and all the cast for Batman 66 movie, and I'm like, holy crap. Okay, so they looked at me a little odd, but I was like, you don't get the direct source from very many of those the cast members that are left from that. So I'm like, I just went up to and just put my head in my hand and just listened to her talk. And my turn came, and I got my autograph on, and she signed everything I put in front of her, and she was so gracious. And talked to me like I was part of her family. Her daughter was standing sitting right next to her at the show, and she looks just like this. I'm like, seriously. I mean, it's just like she could be, and Lee's going on and says, yeah, she introduced me to her, and she says, yeah, she's a stunt woman in Hollywood, and I worry about her every time she does a stunt. Like, is this is gonna be the last one? She's gonna get hurt from it, whatever, and all this. So, I kindest gracious woman I've ever met. So I thought that was the end of it. Well, I go back to my table, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden she comes walking around, and she just talks to me for 45 minutes, to an hour probably, and the funny thing about that, while we were talking, this little girl walks up. She's probably 13 or 14. She goes, I know you're a celebrity, but who are you? And I'm like, your nerd card just got revoked. She says, you don't know who she is? I said, I was like thinking this to myself. I didn't say
I know. She's 13 years old.
And I'm like, seriously, do your research before you come to walking up to people. So
I know we all have phones now, so we can at least look it up. And
there's no excuse. See, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. I mean, I think it's a little bit of that. Well, she's 13 years old. It's not quite the childhood innocence, but she can blurt things out. And the important thing is that she knew she was a celebrity. So I think that's the thing, is that certain actors, actresses, people that are celebrities, they resonate with us. They leave an impact, and we
Mhm.
may not be able to recall their names like right away, but they did such a great performance, or they have such an iconic look that they're instantly recognizable, throughout time. And I look at this piece, and I think that's kind of the reason why I get the impression the reason why she came back and talked to you is because she saw your artwork. She saw that you were genuinely, a genuine fan. You weren't going to be one of those. I'm sure that you've gone to cons before, and you could see the people that would come up with like a roller cart of stuff, and they want people to, they want their idols, their artists, to like sign things, and it's not with the intent because they're a collector, they're a fan. They use it to like, because they're going to put it in the on eBay. They're going to put it on the market,
Well,
and I think she kind of sensed that you were a genuine fan.
yeah. I'll tell you, you talk about that wagon cart of stuff. I was behind a guy at Planet. I was getting Scotty Young to sign some stuff for me. And the guy in front of me, I bet he had 1,000 comics of just
What?
Scotty's limited edition stuff. And,
Uh-huh.
and this is nuts. I mean, I'm like, you are not going to have all that signed. There's
I
no way
know.
Scotty's going to sign all that. But Scotty
Yeah.
signed like 150 books for him right
Okay.
there on the spot.
Yeah.
He had it.
I'm gonna have to say, I have to say that kudos to Scotty Young. I'm a big fan of his work, and I think that was one of those little. We'll talk. This is a little tangential, but I'm gonna say that there's that little argument about like certain artists will charge for their signature. I think Rob Liefeld. I think he won't sign anything unless you pay for that. But then there's like artists like Scotty Young. He'll sign one, or he'll apparently sign like over 100 here, and
Yeah.
and he didn't charge this guy. And I think
I think he did
yeah.
charge him $100. I think.
Oh, he did charge him.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
okay.
he
Yeah.
did charge him a little bit. So
Okay, good. Because I think that that goes beyond. I think if you're
see
you're
now,
gonna go meet somebody.
Allison just said Bernie Ryson signed some suitcase full of books for her, and I've got two, and I'm lucky to have those. I inherited them from somebody else, but I never got to meet him. But
Right.
yeah, there's another guy that's top notch in my book. So
Yeah, Bernie Ryson gone too soon. I really loved his. I mean, that guy brings detail to another level, and it almost looks like those. I want to say like those block wood prints of stuff. I mean, just incredible artwork. But in terms of the artists, each their own. They can decide whether. I think it'd be awesome if you and I can get to that level where people are going to pay for our signatures. But to me, it's like if you're a fan,
that's the thing with me. That's the thing with me. I'll never ever charge. I come from the era that nobody had to buy an autograph. It's just foolish to me. It's just me touching some paper or something. It's just, I just don't agree with that. It'll never happen with me. So
yeah. It's I can't fault like artists. It's them for them to make their own decision. Heck, I don't even sign my own artwork. I really I probably should start doing that.
So. Well, I would if you love the piece, I would sign it. If you don't, if you're not totally in love with the thing, don't sign it.
That's probably it. I don't love any of my pieces because I think I have this imposter complex syndrome.
You get over that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say that your artwork, you are not an imposter. I look at this. This is I liked Captain Caveman, but I love this piece and I love the the story about it. And that goes to show that like I said, I like that the story that you shared with me because it means that that actress, she came back to you, she talked to you, she had that connection with you. And I think there's a here's something from Philip. He says writers need to because they don't have art to sell. Philip, you can co-sign all your books. I think that's it. But here, he actually made a comment here. Artists need to when it's a lot of books. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yes, if it's like an incident that happened with Scotty and he has all those books in front of him, I sure think my hand's going to hurt. I think it sure as we're all going to charge for it. But that's a whole new level. I'm not at that level at all.
Right. Well, I'm gonna say that I think your art is at that level. It's like you just you're gonna break out.
I feel that way too. But it's just like I like to be humble. I don't want to get an ego because those drive me nuts. I don't like working with ego.
I
whole
get
nother
you. I
story.
totally feel you. Especially as indie creators, that's what we like to hope we can get away with. I mean, get away from is
Oh, you
leaving.
like ego? Oh,
No, 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 no. I mean, that's why I need to like be very particular with my
right.
words because you like to think in indie comics we can like pack up all that ego that goes along with maybe
Well, if
possibly
you
working
have
for
one, it'll get around real quick. So it's
that's true. That is so true. But let's talk about your non-ego IPs and OCs because um I have to say that we're going to go to your blue period, which is that exaggerated anatomy style. And you actually some of your OCs from your IPs, they have a different feel to it, and you actually do a realistic style with one of the IPs that we're going to show here. And so we're going to tease a couple. We'll tease a few of them, and then we're actually going to draw in our live drawing part of this two of the characters. And before we get to that, let's. I just realized that I neglected to drop your social media at the very beginning of the show. I got so excited because we had that little bit of a delay. So I'm going to direct everybody to the comment field. I'm going to put 3 different links, or actually, there's going to be a link that goes to his Skullshockr brand imprint, which is your website, and then we also have your links to Facebook and Instagram, which is the Art of Voth, and also on Twitter it's at Brad Voth. So I'm going to put all those in the comment field right now.
I'll tell you,
I'm gonna
I mainly exist on Instagram though. That's where I
mainly
post
okay.
most. That's where I mainly post most of my stuff because I feel it's safer there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that like to lift stuff and it's a whole nother story, but
Yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about, and sometimes all the controversy around Twitter can be a little bit too, what's the word, toxic
yes.
sometimes. But yeah.
Facebook can be that way too. I just choose if I see a lot of nonsense going on, and I just use it for business and get my stuff out to people to see, and then I just stay to myself. I just I like to play with Phil a little bit, here and there. Well, it's just a playful thing, but
uh,
but
I
those
think
are the
everybody. Yeah, you're totally right. I think that the difference is that there are lots of dark spots on the or really just totally like I said, toxic areas there of social media landscape. But it's your role if you're going to participate in the social media landscape to bring that brightness, to bring that positivity,
and that's
whether it's
what I
your
like to
art.
do with my
Yeah,
artwork. That's I
yeah,
want to bring
exactly.
joy. I want to bring joy to people and go from
Mhm.
there from it. It's just like I believe in positivity and I have enough negativity going on between my ears. I don't need anybody else helping me out with that. So
Oh well, I'm going to choose to believe that there's nothing but sunshine there that you're radiating there on the social media. And let's look at some of that sunshine here now. So we have following up, and I guess we'll go in this because we just went from this classical look, and this is a realism. So like this is a series called Westbrook, and um, what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to give I would love for you just to give a little bit of an overview, but don't go into too much detail because I want you to go into that more detail toward the end of the show when we talk about the future. But I look at this piece and yeah, everybody's like going, oh, it's a skeleton western, and you draw your own conclusions here. But when you told me a little bit more about it, I was totally intrigued. So you want let's hear the 1,000-foot overview. If you want to give that
well, you want
elevator
like the
pitch.
synopsis of the story? Is that what you're
Well,
after? Or?
well, how about this? Let's I'm going to show it, and I'm going to give you the opportunity at when we talk about the future at the end of the show
Okay.
to go into that. So let me just give a brief overview here. So we have this, which is Westbrook, and I'm going to basically, this will be my idea of a tease. So I want everybody to look at this, or I want our audience to stick around because not only going to get to see us draw some of the original characters from the mind of Brad Voth, but we also I want you to know that we're going to learn more about this character because I'm going to tell you the story that he has behind this character. I like it. It's going to be something that I'm looking forward to. We also have this, which is the Mighty Tim, if you didn't get the big T on his chest. And this is the blue period. This is where he's doing that exaggerated art style. I mean, anatomy. But he's not doing it with Thor or Hulk or Captain America or Venom. This is the Mighty Tim. Again, stick around so you can hear a little bit more about what the Mighty Tim is and what his story is about. And I think this is a good opportunity because now we're approaching close to the top of the hour here, which is the live drawing thing. So I think this is a good segue into that. So you got two teases to like this bigger, these other IPs that Brad's going to be introducing and talking more about at the end of the show. So that being said, let's look at our first drawing challenge, which is Angus. So I totally dig this because your style, this blue period, where I'm going to call the blue period, which is you doing this exaggerated anatomy, it's like it totally fits this. And you mentioned, was it Simpson's art that was a big influence on you, and this is like the movement.
You know, the Don Simpson, you know, all the same type of goofy, doofy, you know, characters, you know, so.
I'm gonna say it's not. I mean, yeah, I guess one can say it's kind of goofy, but I have to say,
well, when you see the story, it's like his horse has an entirely personality all his own. It's Jason and I. Jason Colvin is my co-creator and co-writer on some of this stuff, and he and I think a lot alike. So, you know, we're going into this, and it's just like, you know, it's phenomenally goofy, and it's just like, you know, there's a serious note, there's a serious undertone of reality in there, but it's just like everything built on top of it. It's just like, you know, it's just, you guys will just have to see it when it comes out.
Yeah, that's a good sales technique. It's like you can see it, but you gotta buy it when it comes out so you can actually understand what Brad's talking about in terms of that unique humor. Especially if you got to hear about this horse, you know, what is this horse about? You know, it's like, so here we have pencils, and then you sent me the inks, and again, this is testament to your skill. You know, we were looking at that Catwoman piece, and that was incredible. Then you look at this, and you know, this is straight on top of the pencils, and I just look, and this is traditional, right? This is a tradition, and
this will be just black and white, and I'm going to put some zipatone and some stuff like that in there because we're going to do 2 black and white and 2 color in the book. So
it's incredible.
Thank you.
I you know, it's one thing to just like straight up ink something, but you know, since you're inking your own work, you can kind of like figure out where you need to do certain things. But
well, here's something I'll add on what I learned from Kevin Nolan. He says, don't ink what you see in your drawing. You need to really kind of analyze it. Or if you're going to ink your own stuff, you're going to emphasize the flaws. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention. If something doesn't look right, it's not going to look right even in the ink. So you need to pay attention to that. So that's my foundation for inking. Is like I always think about what Kevin told me on that. So that's where that's my reason I work the way I do.
Yeah, that's sound advice. I never thought of it that way, but I mean, and I think just like you know what your skill here in terms of like where you put your hatching, where you put your feathered strokes. I'm drawn particularly to, I mean, the way that you render hair and like the textures in his cape or his cloak here. Just, I mean, it definitely. I don't know if this is subconscious with you. I mean, actually, let's look at here. We'll look. See here, you didn't even do that in your pencils here. There's not even a cloak on him. And then when I see it here, I am just totally impressed with just the way that
I did a separate drawing of his cloak on a piece of vellum so that I could figure that out and figure that. And then so when I put him on, put it over him, and I was able to redraw his head too. So I was like, okay, well, but I wound up just using the cloak itself and then just overlaying it and then just making a new drawing. You probably kill way too many trees, but
No, I'm going to say that it's your studies, it's the way that you
Yeah.
operate that you're able to
Well,
do, and I think
you gotta have thought behind everything. You just can't just do it to do it. You know, hey, that looks cool. I mean, it may look cool, but how is
Mhm.
it going to lay out on the page with with your designs and stuff? I mean, they got to be practical and they got to be doable in the time frame that you're trying to get it done in. I've learned that
Mhm.
lesson. I used to over render everything I do, so I'm just
Oh
like
well,
I gotta cut back. So
well, I think you found that happy medium here, and I look at this too, and it's just really neat how you're able to. It's layered, and it's one of those things that I think when artists, when we're taught like art 101, it's like especially when we start clothing figures. I think that sometimes artists, once they get past that stage, when they're learning things where they're drawing the underlying foundation, and then they start clothing the figure, and then later on they start just doing straight up clothing. Sometimes they forget that there's what's underneath it, and I think that this is a good example of showing that you don't forget what's underneath it, and that's the reason why you're so successful. And that vellum technique, that is
mhm.
that's a tried and true like art 101 thing too, is that I think when you don't learn the foundations, you skip to like things, you don't realize, hey, there's volume, there's mass, there's muscle, there's bone, there's things underneath clothing, and you got to like learn how that sits underneath it so you can render what's on top of it. And this is a good example of it, just with a cloak, because then we get to see all this gorgeous, exaggerated anatomy here, and you have such a great eye for these little details. I mean, I can see like the leather. I mean, the wrappings around the fur and the hair, and and who can who can deny the pirate boots? You gotta like the pirate boots.
Yeah.
I think that's just really cool, and just you put all these little details in the textures in his hands and the wrinkles, just really really cool stuff. And you mentioned Kevin Nolan, you mentioned Don Simpson, you mentioned we talked some of the other influences in your life, and I have to say Walt Simonson. I see some of the Walt Simonson like inking techniques that he's famous for. Well, him and his wife, because they would do things together. And I'm looking at this, it's like, yeah, this is I can see the influences, but it's still 100% Brad Voth. So incredible stuff.
Yeah, if you
Um,
guys go check out my Instagram, I've got that Thor I was telling you about yesterday on there. It screams Walt all over the thing, and I got a Throg too. I don't know if I sent that one to you, but I sent that to my rep for Upper Deck, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's Walt all over this thing."
you're talking about this piece?
That's actually a different one.
Oh, it
Actually,
is.
I have a print that I did. I don't. I thought I sent it to you. Maybe I
Is
didn't.
it
But
this
yeah,
one?
that's it. That's it right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This
like
it does. It,
the circles and all that stuff in
yes.
there. It's like, yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does. In fact, I look at this too, and I can totally see that. I remember when I discovered Walt Simonson, I actually discovered him back in X Factor, and then I had to go back and then look at his stuff that he did for Thor, and you're right.
see now,
The start, yeah,
I didn't realize it, but before 337, that's when Beta Ray came and Walt came into the book. But he had a first run that was from 260, I want to say 263 on to about 10 or 11 books
uh-huh.
before that. And it doesn't look anything like what the second run looked like.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I have to
it's
agree. He was actually kind of experiment. Like I think he got really comfortable with his second run, and you get to see him experiment more, and you got to see a little bit more of the exaggeration and the stuff that we know as the more iconic Walt Simonson style versus
mhm.
like it's kind of like whenever when an artist comes onto the scene that we love, it's like their style evolves, and I think their earlier styles you can see where they're influenced by other artists, and then later on they get comfortable, and that's where you see them like take their art to another level.
I can't say
Um,
that my stuff ever looked like somebody else. I mean, I've been compared to some people, but I'm just like I don't know. I mean, there at one point was a lot of people saying I look like Jerome Pena. I don't really didn't agree with that one, but I
That's
was
a
like,
compliment.
no.
That's
Well,
a compliment.
I
Yeah.
don't. I used to get insulted when people would compare me to somebody else. It's like it's me, and that's what I'm putting on the paper. But it's those guys are strongly influencing me, you know, left and right. So you can't deny that, it's a community and you're going to be influenced by them, but it's what you do with the influence that makes the difference.
True.
So
That is so true. And yeah, I just want to let's just get into it because I want everybody to just experience. I want them to see the magic happen, and that's part of the really cool things about Let It Out is because we get to see that. So we have the interview, the conversation, but we also have the live drawing part of it as well. So what we're going to do is I want everybody. This is another thing that's cool about Let It Out is we encourage our audience to draw along with us. So Allison, if you're still out there, love for you to draw Angus with us.
this should
I
be
would like,
interesting. I like to see
yeah,
that too.
I
So
would love to see that. And Philip, heck, I know you're a talented artist in your own right. You can draw along with us too. So anybody that's in our audience, if you want to draw along with us, do a screen capture. This is the pencil version. Actually, let's. I want. This is the more finished version. So do a screen capture of this piece so you can have that as reference. But I would
actually,
love for.
I have this put in here as well. So as I'm drawing, it's right here. So
Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna solo out your art cam. We're gonna put 15 minutes on the clock, and when we do that, we'll go from there. And again, you don't have to do a super polished piece. I know that Brad's been to several cons, so he's used to drawing under the gun and getting stuff done. But we're gonna look at that. But the important thing is just to see like Brad's thought process. And while we do that, I'm gonna put you on the spot again a little bit. I'd love for you to give just a little bit of a background in terms of the synopsis of Angus. I don't know if Angus is the name of the story. Is he like
it is.
Gru?
Basically it was originally called Angus the Wanderer, but it sounded too much like Gru. So.
Like Gru? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Angus and the quest for the Blackwoods dragon. I think is what we're going to call it.
Ooh.
So
Gotta add like all these little like superfluous adjectives in front of it, so that way it actually makes it even sound like, and they come up with an acronym, so that way it sounds really, really like you're making fun of the whole wandering experience, something like that. So, but
well,
I'm gonna
you should remember that this guy can't. He's incapable of doing anything right. So it's just like, the horse and his thought process all the way through this thing is like, really, I was at that battle with you, and you did not do that. It's like you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's kind of like if what is it in The Witcher? I'm gonna probably mispronounce. Is it Geralt or Geralt?
Yeah,
Or Geralt?
Geralt,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
Geralt. I don't remember, but he had his horse companion Roach, and you could just tell Roach didn't have any speaking parts, but you could just tell that Roach would emote, or he would have he would have conversations with his horse, and the horse was like witness to all the things, all these adventures. And so I imagine that's kind of like what Angus's horse is going to
yeah.
do as well.
It's basically Witcher mixed with a little Tangled and with some other stuff, but it's
Okay.
just like so.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to fill in those blanks and get people intrigued. So I'm going to pull up your art cam right now. So let me get that up, and here we go. And see, this is to show the professionalism Brad brings to the table. He has his art reference there that you can see to draw along with him. And I got some people in the comments. It says Allison is going to do a quick piece, and then Philip chimed in. Philip says, "I don't want to show off and make you all feel bad." so what I'm going to do is I really want everybody to experience the magic and see this thing happen. So I'm going to solo your screen, and that way you can see this happen. I'm going to go grab my phone and put the 15 minutes. I'm going to draw along with you. I can't promise that I can even hold a candle to what you're going to do, but at least I'm going to try. So here we go. Solo you out, and you can tell us a little bit about who Angus is and why we should check it out. Here you go.
Well, let's see here. Get a new. Yeah, Angus is I just wanted to, I'm influenced by like the Korgoth. I don't know if you guys have seen the Korgoth the Barbarian. It's on YouTube. That Indy
Mhm.
Charvosky pitched to Cartoon Network, and when they saw it, they were like, "Absolutely no way that ever gonna ever see light of day." Because I mean, it's pretty dark, but and just full of all kinds of stuff. But uh, I generally start with the head when I do in a lot of drawings. So let's just, and then with digital, I just shrink everything down as I'm going. So.
So would you say that Korgoth the Barbarian, was that like a heavy influence on what
Um,
you,
I would
or was it
think,
just
I had this idea one day that I just wanted to do this. I like the thought of a journey, and I had just watched The Witcher actually, and I'm like, that'd be kind of a cool. And I'm a big Conan guy, so I'm just like, the thought of doing something of a barbarian of some sort, and I was like, I really like the whole Scottish idea of a Scotsman, and I had initially had this short story. It was more of basically a comic strip. Is called At the Bus Stop, and Angus would show up, and he's in modern day, but he's dressed like this. And
that
he
sounds
shows up
funny.
and he shows up at the bus stop, and he sees police as trolls. So he's not in his right mind at all. So I'm just like, okay, well, it was like that in itself could be another book, that I could base this character off. It was initially called Angus McNubbly, and people always mistook his name with the thing on your back. It's just like, oh, it's and I was like,
I was thinking of McNugget. I don't know why,
yeah,
but
well,
it sounded like McNugget.
it's a little further down than a McNugget, but but
Okay, right.
I don't want to go too far into that, but that's just kind of where the name came from. Is like, okay, well, that's funny in itself, because I'm always trying to think of these goofy ideas that so that I can you know, and I'm a Thor guy too. I just love Thor. Um,
Uh-huh.
So that's the other part of where it comes from, and this is probably going to turn out more realistic than the cartoony version.
Uh-huh. Well, you do it in
But
whatever style that you want, because we want people to
yeah, because I had
understand it.
I had started it out, and it looked a lot more like oh, I'm trying to even think what I could compare it to, but it had hold on a second. Um, it was more on a more serious aspect, and I was like, well, I had Blackwood because Blackwood, the dragon is actually the villain of the story, basically, and that's why he's on a quest for the dragon, because they
Hmm.
have an altercation at the end, and it's a cliffhanger at the end of the sampler book that we're putting out. We want to make sure that we tell a solid enough short story, and then give you the gist of everything in the main book when we get to it, and
Yeah. So,
and
so you're saying there's the aside from the character of Angus and his horse, does the horse
yeah,
have a name?
yeah, Kevin, it's Kevin.
Okay, Kevin the horse. That
Yeah.
sounds so. You have Angus, and then you have Kevin, and
And
it
people
just
were like,
reminds
"Why
me.
Kevin?" And I was like, "Why not? It's just random. It's funny.
Well,
It's just
it reminds me of the Pixar movie Up, and
yeah,
didn't they name the bird
yeah." His
Kevin?
name was Kevin. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's hilarious. I don't know if that's intentional, if that was a
No,
throwback or
it wasn't
homage. Yeah.
intentional, but I'm just like, I've got two gnomes in there. One's called Walt, and the other one's Melvin. And they said my gnomes suffer from Tourette's, so you know they show up at the end of the story in the prologue. So and
Uh-huh.
so Angus he's like, everybody's running from this dragon. they're getting singed and everything else. He hates the creatures of the forest. He's trying to kill them all. So, well, instead of running away from him, Angus goes towards him, and the gnome's like, "What's the fool doing?" You know. And it's like I added Walt to it because I'm like, got to have another way. You got to have them play off each other. And I'm just like, there's the element of Lord of the Rings where they build up this cast all the way through it. So they go on this journey. He's got all these different characters that will probably eventually join him. And so, it's just it's just ridiculous. So,
Okay, so
go ahead.
The premise of the story is he's on a quest to defeat the dragon, or
well,
kill
he's
the
trying to
dragon,
figure. Well, my initial thoughts on Angus was he goes on this journey, but he's such a pacifist and a wuss that by the time he gets to the end of it, he wants to make friends with the dragon, not kill him. So.
Oh, wait. He's a pacifist? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that was the initial concept. I don't know if I'm going to keep that element, but I think it's hilarious. It's like, why go on a quest? You get all the way down to the end of the quest, and it's like you can't fulfill the quest, and you got to find some other means to why you just wasted however many weeks to get from point A to point B. So it's just like,
I got to say that's so hilarious. I mean, I'm laughing out loud, and I haven't even read it yet. It's just a neat story because now you're fleshing out like his character, being a pacifist, and yet he has this hulking, like I can like defeat like lions and elephants and just with like my pinky finger, and yet he's a pacifist. That's so funny.
But
so what are your other? I mean, aside from, you said you had like all those other influences. So aside from like those characters, the dragon, you said they were the trolls or gnomes? Is that, or
gnomes?
The other?
They're gnomes.
Gnomes, right?
Yeah.
With Tourette's, which is so funny.
It's what the hell? It's like,
yeah. What other? Without spoiling, like what other characters? Can we expect, and like what were they influenced by? Like Can you fill us in without spoiling anything?
We've really only got to that point where it was the dragon and then the gnomes, and then there'll be a couple of other like side creatures like you'll see just in passing because they're running from the dragon. So because the main story is just he's on the path and he's drunk from the night before, and he's on the path. Well, he's talking about that battle in the beginning, first page, maybe page and a half. And of course, Kevin I got the thought balloons in his, coming off of him. It says, "I was there. You're an idiot. I was at that battle with you. That didn't happen that way." So it's just like, so in the end, by the I guess would be the third page, he falls off Kevin and bangs his head on the ground and goes into a dream state where he remembers the night before. So we go into the tavern where he was getting drunk at, and there's a character called Bjorgen. He's if you think Angus is big, Bjorgen is twice the size. And they get into an argument. Well, there was initially we had a sing off in the tavern where everybody
sing off,
where everybody was like they break into song, and I don't know where Jason came up with the lyrics for, but it was hilarious. But we wound up having to cut it. the song because it played out too long, and it just I'm all about making sure people don't get bored with the story as it's going along. So we're going to use that later on. So that won't get used in the initial.
That'll be the remastered director's cut.
Well, we got a lot of stuff planned for it. It's just I'm just in my mind. That's what we just developed on the first little chunk of it, and then once we figure out, because why we're doing the sampler is because we want to give people a variety of things that we've been working on in a short snippet, and give them a full thing in say 7 pages, opposed
Mm-hmm.
to doing 40 pages of one book, and then that book winds up sitting on a shelf collecting dust. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to really kind of give me some feedback uh, going into it, and that because I love the stuff. I think I didn't mean to be a writer, but I just was kind of like out of necessity started that
Mm-hmm.
journey and started developing it, and it was kind of like, well, okay, well, I guess I'll just and I brought Jason in because Jason and I met at we first kind of in passing at Kansas City at one of the shows. So I went down to Dallas to Fan Expo in 2019, and I'm in a booth with Greg Horn selling his wares, and that was an experience and a half. But Jason walks up to the table, and I said, "I just saw you in Kansas City, didn't I?" So our friendship derived from that. I mean, it just he lived 30 minutes away from me, and I was like, well, he was like, yeah, he's like, how do I get into helping people out? And I was like, well, I could always use some help. I'm not at that level, but I was like, you want to come in? I'll give you my extra ticket I usually get for the shows, and we can get to know each other that way. And that's how our friendship developed. And I consider him family at this point. I've known him for 2.5 years, and we think a lot alike. So, which is scary. So,
Let's go back a little bit because I don't think people know who Jason is. You want to talk about
uh,
who his last name
yeah,
and
Jason Colvin,
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 yeah,
Colvin.
and he's
And
kind of like I think that we have the benefit of doing our pre-show yesterday, so not many
mhm,
people know the relationship that you have with Jason. Jason is kind of like your partner in crime. He's kind of like
yes.
your co-writer with the IPs and OCs
Hmm.
that we're drawing right now.
Hmm.
So now that we got that little bit of that background there, you basically now have a somebody who's kind of like writing along with you, kind of like you're bouncing ideas off of.
Yeah,
Um,
and I told him, I basically told him the most important thing of it is if you believe in something enough to want it in a book, you stick to it. Because
mhm.
I'm going to do that. I says I'm that's the reason why I like to work with him is like, okay, well, the whole song and dance number that he was doing in that tavern, I'm like, I love it, but it's gonna have to get cut because I don't know that that early in the story is it gonna work.
Uh-huh.
Is it gonna work? It's like, I love the idea, and I says we'll have to hang on to it and apply it to a different scenario down the line. And
Uh-huh.
so we go 50-50 on most of the everything, but most of the time I would like him to do more artwork. He wants to do colors and stuff, so eventually hopefully I'll get him into doing that. And you know because I don't want to do everything myself. It's not all about me. I would like to bring in some other people too eventually, and uh, you know build upon what I've got already. So
Hmm. Well, I like what you're going with it because we're going to go more in detail about the logic about how you're doing an anthology and the reason why you're doing it. But I like we were toying around with the idea of like, is this going to be the beginning of like the Brad and Jason shared universe? Like, do you imagine your IPs like existing in
well,
the same
okay,
same
so
continuity? Yeah.
yes, I see. There's chunks happening here already. So I've got an idea called Floyd, and he has
Uh
a lot of. There's a character in there. I developed this in college when I was for an idea that I was thinking about doing, but my ideas are just generally way too big for like a semester worth of work. So I put all these things in, and saved them. Like Biff is one of those, and
hmm
Floyd and. Uh, but anyway, so I'm trying to encourage him to bring in some of his own ideas. And the mighty Tim is kind of basically I'm trying to rein him in to do more of the okay, these characters are developed by him, and vice versa. So rather than me, he can be working on that on the side, that I'll be working on another book for the artwork. and then he can be doing the writing, and then vice versa. The eventually he's more wants to do more of the writing anyway. So I'm just like, if I don't agree with it, like I'll go through a script and I'm like reading it, and then I'm like there was a lot of nudging going on between the horse and waking Angus up from his stupor. And I'm like, well, let's cut it down to a little bit of nudging, and then we can add in the characters running out of the forest and stuff. So, there's
Mm-hmm.
the pacing is a lot quicker, and we're not tied down by a lot of nuances and a lot of little things that aren't really bringing the story forward. So he understood that, and that's like, I never want to get rid of an idea like the tavern thing completely, because it's like it's too good to be going on the cutting room floor entirely.
Uh-huh.
It's we need
Maybe
to.
we'll see that in like the anthology part 2, or maybe like a
Well,
Angus like title, like if he has his own book, you can like
well, he he
we can work that
he
in there.
he's all about the Western right now that we're working on too. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
that to me, I've been wanting to work on that. I started that, I hate to say it, 6 years ago, and I wrote it in an hour and a half waiting for my brother during a cancer treatment. And I was like, I wrote it down in a little pad and just went through the whole pad, just writing stuff down. I was like, well, the horror and a Western is like two of my favorite things. Is like put them together. It's like,
Oh yeah,
you
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
yeah, I definitely want to go into that, but we'll keep it Angus for now, because I want people
Sure.
to be teased about like what you're doing with Angus here. So in terms of, are there any other characters maybe that you can share that's not spoiler, of like that we can look forward to in terms of the
We,
narrative?
like I said, we've been just basically concentrating on our little story, and I think once we get the sampler out, I can develop the more side characters and stuff, because it's a forest and you can have a ton of different
Mm-hmm.
things happen. There's actually a character that shows up at the end, and I'm trying to think what that the character's called. He's got one leg. It's from Scottish mythology. It's got one hand in his chest, and he's got one leg, and he hops.
One hand.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
a. Let me see if I
not
can.
familiar with that one, but that
It's
sounds.
a. But I had this character. But anyway, this character hobbles out of the forest from trying to run away from him. Of course, he's not capable of moving real fast because of the way he is. So the dragon, I wanted to have him just bear down on him with fire and just singe him. But the
Uh-huh.
thing of it is what I wanted to add to him is the little booger can't be beat that easily. So when
Right.
the flames dissipate and they come back, and all of a sudden he comes
You
back
like
into
pulse.
existence, and that dragon's like, what just happened? I just burnt that little shit. So excuse my language, but he burnt him. Is like, how am I, what is like puzzled, and then the puzzling just adds to it when Angus walks out with his sword, and he's like, have at thee, So it's like, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where we stop, because we were trying not to make this a 60-page book.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to try to give a little snippet of everything. So,
Yeah, it kind of made me think of Monty Python. It's like it's just a flesh wound.
yeah,
it's like
it's like
it's
in the
like
cave where it's only a rabbit. It's
yeah.
like, no, the little bugger's gonna get you. So,
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
funny.
I love Monty Python. So their humor is like, right, it's like top notch for me. So yeah,
Mhm.
uh,
Okay, just to give everybody a heads up, we are only going to be doing 2 live drawings. So we used to give like 15 minutes for each one, but I'm going to go ahead and say, since we're only doing 2, let's bump it up to 20 minutes. So let's we got about 5. Actually, let's we have 7 more minutes to go along with this drawing. So I just want to give Brad a heads up.
okay.
I'm resisting from looking at what you're doing, because I'm sure that it's much more far along than what I'm doing. But uh, I think that if for those of us or those of you in the audience that are drawing along with us, we have 15 more minutes to go, and to draw the character, Angus, who is a pacifist. that we're learning, and yeah, he's on a quest to battle a dragon, and I guess it wasn't spoiler, but you sort of said that he's kind of like conflicted. You don't know if he really wants to kill the dragon or not. But he goes on a misadventure and he meets all these colorful characters. So let's say this does take off, like, because I know the whole idea of you doing an anthology is because you kind of wanted to like experiment, show like all these different stories that are running around in your head and get people's opinions. Let's say that it takes off. Say that
Yeah.
that a lot of people love. They want to hear more about Angus. Do you have like it plotted out for like, do you have a Angus stories like written up ready in your head to like
What
do 100 issues or what?
ideally that's the way you would want to do it, but I just like
Mhm.
I've been so squirreled away with these little things that I just haven't developed them past that. That'll all come once the book's out and we have time to kick back and see where it goes. And then I'm
Uh-huh.
going. Westberg is our main one that we want to do because I have a possible publisher for it already, so I need to get that done so that I could present it to them and see if they really want to do it, or if they're the right fit for me to get it out into the world, opposed to some of the other things that I want to do. Because we want to do pitches on all of these things and pitch them to some different some different publishers and self-publish them through another company, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that Tim, not getting off the Angus thing, but Tim actually, Jason's been kind of dabbling in what he wants to do with that. He's got some space turkeys that he wants to put in there. I'm telling you, when he started telling me, I was like, what in the world? It's
Space
like,
turkeys? Oh my
uh,
gosh. That
and then
sounds so cool.
Biff, I have a lot more to that one. Even I'll talk about him when we get into
Mm-hmm.
the drawing for him. But he was. I have if you go to my website, the Skullshockr website on Wix, I
Mm-hmm.
have a 3 minute, almost 4 minute animation. I hate to even send people to look at it. It's old. It was my senior thesis piece that I did in college. But you get kind of the idea where my mindset is with that character even now. It's just but like I said, I'll go into that at that point when we get into that
Yeah,
drawing.
yeah. We want to save those goodies for the next live draw. So right now we have about 3 more minutes to finish our versions of the Angus character here. I can tell you, like what you're telling me about it, I'm eating it up. I think it has so much potential for some just crazy humor. Um, I'm still fixated on that whole the two gnome characters that have Tourette's. I think that there's so much
Well,
comic
you think
relief.
of what's the guy? Donnelly is his last name. He did the squirrel in. He did the squirrel, and I think it was in Open Season.
Uh huh.
But you
I
think
haven't.
of his voice, but it's just like I think of these voices and put them towards characters and stuff that
Uh
I
huh.
thought would be kind of funny. But
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Your creative process. Like when you're doing this, we mentioned that you have an animation background.
yes,
So like when you're creating your characters, your worlds, do you think of them as like, hey, um, if they were animated, like you mentioned about like voices that you would have to be paired with those characters. Do you
well,
always think
everything.
when you're creating that? Do you take that into
Everything's an
consideration?
animation. I run that movie through my mind when I'm doing this because that's how I break down things into panels. It's like Jason and
Uh
I'll
huh.
talk about stuff, and I'll start to see it in my mind. Is like we were at Planet Comic Con back in I guess it was April. But anyway, we're sitting at the booth, and he's like, "Well, I want to do this," and I was like, "Well, why don't we do this?" So I started sketching real loosely. Uh, the idea, and he's like, well, we need to keep that. I was like, well, yeah, of course, I don't throw anything away. So uh, you know
uh,
but it's just just the way I do things, it's just like, like I told you yesterday, it's like my process, it can be a little long.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've got ideas that have been in my computer for years that I'm wanting to do. And,
Uh-huh.
uh, you know, well, thank you, Phil.
Oh, is
Uh,
there some? I haven't actually
yeah,
looked at the
yeah,
comments. Yeah.
yeah. He said, have a good day. Yeah, I'm sure he wants to go spend some time with his kiddos. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks, Phil, for dropping by. I know it is Father's Day, and he's a great father. He was always very active in his kids' lives,
yeah,
and
what he did with for his kids putting their artwork in his book was pretty cool, I thought. So,
yeah, yeah. So thanks for being on there. I'm gonna actually look at the comments here real quick, because we're coming up on our last minute. Let me pop up a few comments here.
yeah, well,
Let's
my
see.
sketch is terrible.
Don't say that. I'm purposely not looking at your artwork because I want people I want to be surprised when you get here. But let me
His legs are real long.
all
Ew. Okay, let's see
right.
here.
So you got Jim Riley. He's dropping in. Hey Jim, happy Father's Day. Yes, happy Father's Day to you. I'm not a father, but I'll say happy Father's Day
Neither
to
am
you.
I. Yep.
And Allison put in a comment here. She said Ice Pirates reference. I'm not exactly sure what that. Maybe we were talking about the boots. I don't know exactly
Oh,
when that came
yeah,
up, but
probably.
but definitely cool. I do remember that movie. I remember that. What was it in Space Pirates? It was the space herpy. I think that was
Oh, is that the movie? That's exactly what I was just thinking.
I think it had that in there too. And like when I watched it when I was a little kid, I probably shouldn't have been watching it. It was like there was that humor. I was like going, what is a space herpy? So, but all right. So 1 minute. Okay. So this is the thing. Brad, is that time has expired, but we
Okay.
can put additional time on the clock if my guest wants to. So we are going to be just doing 2 drawings. So do you want to add a little bit more time to it, or do you want to move? You want to
We
like go ahead and
can.
put
I
things
mean,
down?
mine's terrible as it is. Right? I need to go in and select stuff and shrink it down. And
Okay, okay. How about this? Let's put an additional. Let's put like a additional 5 minutes on there,
okay.
and then we'll go from there. But I'm trying to think about what other things we can talk about without spoiling. And I guess let's just talk about let's see your influences. We mentioned Kevin Nolan, we mentioned Don Simpson, Walt Simonson. Who else? Who else can you put
Sean Gordon
off top of
Murphy.
Sean Gordon Murphy? Yeah.
Yeah. Jerome Pena is actually an influence, like Kenneth Rockford,
Mm-hmm. Oh
um,
yeah, these are
Joe
great.
Joe Kubert.
Mm-hmm.
You go back in. I mean, I go back into the golden age. Almost, I prefer the older artists over the newer stuff. I mean, it's because their stuff is just phenomenal to me.
Uh-huh.
Um, let's see. Gosh. Sergio Tappi's a
Yep. Mm-hmm.
French illustrator, was anyway.
Mm-hmm.
John Buscema.
Of
Uh,
course. Yep.
that's where the Conan influence is basically from him. So,
Yeah, those are all. You just named a who's who of like. I think you mentioned Jose Garcia Lopez.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You can't be my age and not being influenced by him when he was everywhere, whether you knew
yeah.
it or not. So
Hmm.
I don't know what that's
And of
about.
course, I'd have to say that probably George Perez, maybe somebody that maybe you're a fan of, if not influence
Well,
wise. And I think that
here's the book that really wanted me to get into comics, and that's Crisis Infinity Earth, the
yes,
Marv
yes.
Wolfman,
Uh-huh.
George Perez, Jerry Ordway,
Hmm.
uh, Dick Goriando. That book right there is what got me hooked. I mean, really hooked, and like I want to do this. I was
Hmm.
like, I really loved that story, and I actually have got to talk to Marv about that series, and he said his favorite book that he's ever written was the issue 1 of that. And I'm like, I agree. That's the best thing that's ever come out of DC, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
There's nothing else that I cherish as much as I do that. Well, one other thing is the Superman Muhammad Ali that Neil Adams did.
Oh my gosh, you're like bringing out all the nostalgia with all those things. I
Yeah.
remember that one too. I never owned that book, but I always saw pages from it, so I never read the entire thing. But anything you look at from like
I
Neil
do
Adams.
have a mint copy in my box in the closet that I inherited from my cousin. He decided to get rid of his stuff, all of his stuff, and I was at a show with him, and that's a story behind that. Is we were at a show together in Kansas City, right when we were still in high school, and he found one for a big stack for
Uh-huh.
$2 a piece. A guy was selling them for. So
What?
he snagged the best copy he could out of it and never read it. So it
Oh,
stayed in plastic for all these years, and I inherited it 2 years ago, still in the same condition and everything. I was going to have Neil sign it. Of course, I can't do that now,
hmm.
but I always
Well,
wanted that book, and I was angry at him because he didn't pick me up one too, because I'd always wanted that book. And the
uh-huh.
only other book that in my mind uh, remembered that Superman that Andrew Ross Andrew did with, and I guess Neil worked on that one too. But the panel work in that book is amazing. It's like Superman's in this box. He's all
Mhm.
crunched up, and they made the panel work. I was just like, only the flow, the talking. I'm getting gonna real nerdy on you artist wise, but it's just like the flow of that book is
Uh-huh.
absolutely amazing. But from what I understand, Neil Adams did work on that book. His name was never on it, but he did work on
Hmm.
that book.
Man, that
Um,
sounds like comic gold right there. And sounds like your collection's pretty impressive if it has
well,
that in
I,
it.
I inherited also the book called Tor. That it was kind of a takeoff of it's kind of like Tarzan meets
Thor
uh,
or
Conan.
oh yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's got dinosaurs and stuff in it. But
Uh-huh.
Joe Kubert did that one, and I just absolutely love Joe Kubert. That's where a lot of my feathering techniques come from. Is from him.
Hmm.
Another person would be Mike Grell, and I've met him and talked to him at the very same show that Lee Merriweather was at. And at one, and go back and on that story is the simple. They were both at my booth at one time. Mike was leaving to get on the plane to leave, and I don't know why he came over there. I had talked to him, and I guess I made an impression on him. But I
Uh-huh.
was talking to him, and yeah. So you know to have them as an influence, one thing, but actually meeting them and actually, because I met Neil Adams 2018, I believe. And
Hmm.
I was talking to him, and his wife got angry because we started to talk about stuff, and he needed to get set up, and she's like, "You need to go do that," and I was like, "Well, okay."
Well,
So
you must be just somebody that people want to talk to. And speaking of which, time has officially expired. So
okay, well,
um,
I'm not even half done on that,
oh,
so
that's okay. That's okay. And you know what? I'm looking at it right now, and I just I can see where you're going with it, and it's just incredible. Let me can you zoom
just
in? Let's zoom in, and let's just see where you're at because I want people just to really get an idea. Like, and this is that foundation that we were talking about in terms of you being able to lay down that groundwork. And I can already see what you're going with this, and it's neat. I think that for our audience that are watching, this is what you got to kind of do. You kind of got to get a feel for where the underlying anatomy is,
and I'll tell
and
you, not to
Mhm.
interrupt you, but it was like
No, go for it.
what I would do from here I'd select that head because his head's obviously too small for the body, and I'd
Hmm.
actually just, in fact, let me just will select it with the where's that tool at? But anyway, I would do a selection and just Control T on that and enlarge it so that it's comparable to the body rather than redrawing it,
Hmm.
and then yeah, so It just saves time, especially in the foundation of a drawing. Because
Uh-huh.
I'm never that type of guy that's going to go in there and I'm just going to sit there and I'm just going to sit there and work this line. I just drives me nuts when I see people doing that. It's like there's a lot more to doing
Uh-huh.
a draw. Okay.
Well, I think that this is one of the things too. It's like this is the advantages of going digital, because
Yeah.
you can draw them in there and then you can exaggerate the proportions. Select in Photoshop it's like lassoing an
Hmm.
area and then blowing it up more and then being able to render it out more. So I see what you're doing with this, and this looks phenomenal. And I would encourage you. If you want to take this to another level and finish it off, we would like to feature it on our sister page, the Art Show, and that way we can hype it up, and people who may have missed your appearance can see the artwork and say, hey, you want to see where this came from? You want to see where the magic happened? This is where it was at. And I'm going to check our Art Show page, and I'm not seeing any artwork from Allison. Allison, hopefully you took it. You could do that quick sketch and you can put it there. Oh yeah, she's in the comment field. Yeah, Allison, go to the Art Show on Facebook, and this goes for anybody who's in our audience who wants to draw along with us. Go to the Art Show on Facebook and just post it there. And Alice and I are also friends. So if you want to send me that in a personal chat, direct message through Facebook Messenger, you can do that as well. Whatever's convenient for you. But I think that if you post it to the Art Show, that way we can actually have it there for everybody to look at. It won't just be me on this show and Brad. So that being said, I'll wait a few moments. And if you are still working on it, anybody that's still working on it and they want to post it later on, just let me know in the comments field that you are doing it, and I can know to look for it, and then we can share it. So let's see. Oh, Allison just posted. So let me refresh this. And oh my gosh, let's see what Allison did. Okay, you're gonna love this, Brad. I'm gonna add this to. Let me open this up. Allison has been really working on dynamic action poses, and it shows with this particular piece. So let me unshare this and share this with everybody. So hold on one moment and share screen. So Brad, I want you to check this out. And here we go. So this is from Allison. Check that out.
Oh wow.
Look at that action pose.
Yeah.
Complete with a bloody swipe.
You need to put
Allison,
you need
that
to
is
put a
so
head
awesome.
down there and have it like
Right, like it's
decapitating somebody.
yeah. Or we could, I don't know what it is. It can be like some other I don't know, forest creature or something like that. But I think that it's really cool. Kudos to you, Allison. This is just awesome. I love the dynamic pose here. You went crazy with that sword. That's a serious looking sword.
Yeah.
Great kinetic energy. Love it, love it, love it. So if anybody else is in the audience that wants to draw along again, let me know in the comments field, and I'll be more than happy to share with you. Here we go. We got somebody who just joined us in. We have Ashley Curtin. Hi, hello to you. All right. Do you know Ashley?
Nope.
Oh, you don't. Okay, all right. But Ashley, thanks for dropping by. Okay. Yeah, you only had so much time, Alice, and I totally understand. I guess what I'll do is I'll show my art piece, and then we're going to move to our second drawing challenge. So hold on one moment. Let me share this with you, and let me stop sharing screen. And then I can see in a short amount of time, you've already fleshing out your version of Angus even more. So that looks really cool.
His legs still need to be like reduced down to about half the size because it ought to be like twigs and be like.
Exactly. I totally feel you. All right, so Brad, this is my version that I did really quickly, like Allison. Here we go.
Oh wow!
And so I had a lot of fun with him. I'm not used
that's cool.
to drawing like a really exaggerated muscle style, but I have to say, like with all of my guests, and you especially, it's like I get inspired by what you do. His legs aren't as tiny as they could be, but I wanted. I guess I'm kind of learning how to do this exaggerated style, but it was fun, and I almost want to give him like a tiny battle axe and a tiny sword or a tiny dagger because I wanted to emphasize how massive he is.
Yeah.
And but the fact that you told me that he's a pacifist, I just think that's hilarious. I think that to hear this contradiction in terms of like how
Well, that's just the
massively,
thing that you
yeah.
say contradiction. That's the big thing with a lot of my characters. It's like, you
Uh-huh.
know, they look one way, but they give you off a whole different impression.
Yes.
And on the opposite side of that,
Uh-huh.
what they do is doesn't exactly fit what
Hmm.
what you think they would. So
Yeah, I totally get that. Anyway, thank you for Allison for drawing along with us, and Brad, thank you for showing us that rough. I know that it's gonna it has. I see the foundation in it. And I know that could be that you're. I already know how your mind is working, so I know that that's going to be taken to another level. So if you want to finish that up and send it to me a little later on, I'd be
yeah,
happy to share
I'll
that
do that.
on our art show as well as our Facebook page. But yeah, let's go back to the PDF that I shared earlier. So let me stop sharing this and share the PDF again. What's that at? Here we go. And share. All right, so let's talk about your second IP that we're gonna draw along with, and that is I'm gonna make sure I get it right. It's Bif
Milestone.
Milestone. I knew I was gonna have it. I did it. I kind of did it.
Milestone.
I kind of did it on purpose because that
That's
we joked
funny.
around that I always like mispronounce certain things, but it is Bif Milestone. And this character, so we're going from Angus the Barbarian to outer space. So I think it's really cool. Let me show you the cast of characters before we show the main character. So we have is it Mixie? Is that how you pronounce that? Oh, I lost. Oh, I lost it. Okay, here we go. There you go. You see it?
Yeah,
All right,
Mixie,
Mixie.
Mixie
Yes,
Fox.
Mixie Fox. Um, and I think we see this character, and I'm going to show you some of the other characters that came up. This next one is hilarious. This is
Kingsley.
Kingsley, and Brad has even told me I I don't like using LOL, but I did laugh out loud when I saw this, and you even told me that I thought this character actually was really neat looking and
Well,
it's humorous, but you said he changed. He changed a lot,
he's
right?
changed a lot. But this version of him, he actually is wearing a Piggly Wiggly helmet, and he's got the tubes running in there, and that's running out all the like his nostrils and his
Yes,
it's just gross. So
it is, but it's like Garbage Pail Kids. You remember
uh-huh,
that in our generation? It's like
uh-huh.
it's gross, but it's cute at the same time. So
But
I
he's
and
a whole lot shorter now, and he's a lot more pudgy, or he looks a lot like a cross between this and Porky Pig. So it's
uh,
just, and he's a bounty hunter, and he shows up in the very beginning of the story for Biff. When
oh,
Biff lands on the planet, he
uh,
walks out of the port and down the fairway and he's sitting at, it's like a cross between, Biff is kind of cross between like Blade Runner and some other stuff, and like a little bit of Star Wars in there mixed in
mm-hmm,
there. But
yeah,
you'll get that feeling from the city and stuff that they land in. And
yeah,
he, Biff walks into, basically goes into the bar, and I call it the space bar, like the space bar on your keyboard. It's like so I was
I
like,
thought I thought you were gonna say like Moss Eisley Cantina, but you said it's the
no,
space bar,
it's the
like the
space
space bar.
bar.
That's so
I was
funny.
like,
That's
it's a cliche, basically. It's like you're expecting, oh, it's the space bar, like it's out in space. I'm like, no, it's the space
it's a
bar. It's named after the part on your
the
keyboard. So
keyboard.
yeah,
Yeah, and here we go. We have the main character, which I used for your banners, for the banners to promote you on this show. And I think this is kind of like the epitome of this blue period that I'm talking about for you. This exaggerated anatomy. You've really taken it to another level. I mean, I look at this and the textures in his uniform and the feathering techniques for the rendering. It is exaggerated anatomy, but it's so clean. And
hmm
I could see it like an action figure. This could be a toy. It's just so cool. And
well, I want to do some 3D stuff with this,
uh-huh,
because I know Sean Galloway, he did it with a lot of his characters. He had
mhm,
some people do some 3D sculpting for some of his stuff, and
Yeah.
and I'd like to be able to do that with mine.
I think you could,
Uh,
because especially now that 3D printing is becoming more popular and more economical, I think you're going
mhm.
to see a lot of artists that are that can offer that. They can do 3D things that you can hold in your hand, tangible items of their characters. And if anything, there'll be prototypes for, like, hey, you know what? If Netflix were take to pick up the Biff IP, here's a toy. Let's sell this to
Mhm.
Hasbro. Let's sell this to
Well,
Mattel.
I'd love like a, a big toy like that. I got I don't know if you guys saw those Todd McFarlane Batman for the Batman stuff
Uh-huh.
that he came out with, but those things were phenomenal. I got one in
Oh
my case
yeah,
over here, but
yeah.
uh,
But yeah. So this is if you're gonna draw, this is our second drawing challenge. This is Bif Milestone, and we're gonna learn a little bit about Bif, what he's about, because the name itself, evokes all sorts of things to me personally, and apparently we have that much in common, because Brad was very intentional in terms of, like, the look, the feel, the name. He's gonna dig deeper into that and tell us more about Bif as well. So let me zoom out here, and so that everybody can get an idea of him. Same exaggerated anatomy as Angus, but this is a space theme, and we're going to learn more about that. And actually, before I get to do a screen capture of this, and I don't know if Brad, if you're going to put this on the side of your drawing.
yeah, I already have it there. So
Okay, great.
mhm.
So you can see it there, but I'm going to share this with everybody else. This is like Brad's multi-talented skill set, is that he's a 3D artist, he's a 3D modeler, and he's, with this particular book, and we'll talk a lot about this more during the live drawing, is that he's able to merge 3D assets, basically his skill as a 3D illustrator, bringing those into this comic. And so here's a 3D rendered ship, and here's an example of a panel, a page from the upcoming graphic novel. And check that out. Oops, I zoomed out. Let me zoom in here. Look how he's able to seamlessly integrate 3D and 2D artwork, and it's just done so well. It has a heavy metal vibe to it. If anybody's read the European heavy metal comics,
And I'm probably going to approach them to probably put some of this in heavy metal, probably because you're like the fourth person to say that. So I'm
yes,
like, why? I got some contacts. I could probably manage to get that
oh
to happen. So,
yeah, make
uh,
it happen.
mhm.
And if that were to happen, I'll pick up that issue, and when I meet you, gonna buy like 1,000 copies. So that way you can sign all of them.
I mean,
Just kidding.
I mean,
So,
I've been doing this for 6 years, and I'm happy with where I'm at. But the things that I want to do, or I'm probably going to push a lot harder now that I get some feedback now. So,
yeah. All
it's
right. I think it's gonna be awesome, and I want you to, like, elaborate more on Biff Milestone, and, like, the his genesis, like where he's come from and what inspired you, and we talked a little bit during our pre-show about it. So I want our audience to check this out, screen capture it if you want to, but it'll be off to the side as I solo out Brad's art cam, so you can see the magic happen yet again. All right, so Biff Milestone, we're going to set the clock for 20 minutes, and let me go ahead and adjust that right now. 20 minutes, and we will start right now. All right, okay. All right, so let me get your art cam up here, Brad, and there you go. All right, I'm going to solo this out, and I'm going to I want our audience to see the magic happen here, and let's start with the very first thing. Biff Milestone. I was thinking of, like, Spaceman Spiff from, like, Calvin and Hobbes. I don't know if anybody was a big fan of Calvin and Hobbes. I was, and I couldn't say, like. And then also there's Biff Tannen from Back to the Future. So those are my two references. so I'm gonna put the
and
mic
it's
in your
funny that,
hand.
and like I
Yeah.
say, I told you
Uh,
yesterday, I was like, I think Spiff. I turned it into Biff. I was like, I think that's the originate, because I remember reading Calvin and Hobbes, and I'm like, well, that would be a good book if it was. I'm not going to rip directly off of it, but it turned into Biff, because I thought it was a ridiculous name. I was like, he sounds stuck up and snooty, you know. So, but then again, like I said though, my characters are flawed 100%. They don't ever do anything like they're supposed to. You know, uh, let's see, where was I going? You know, so I've got all kinds of characters that have flaws in this book, and this is a whole lot more developed than probably anything else that I'm putting in this book. Just because it was a senior thesis, and I'm a little bit more developed with this than I was anything else, so I mean, I've got the main villain of the basically there's not he's the head of an organization called the Bovine Society. It's basically all cows, pigs, and different levels of different animal breeds. But you got a dairy cow that's in charge, and that's why he's going to the planet where he's in the story but I cut it off before he gets into the bar, and it was just, time frame and all that stuff playing a factor about just getting it out to the world. But he winds up being in, say, I don't want to give away the whole thing, but it's just the premises of the main story starting off is he goes to this planet and goes into this bar, gets set up by Mixie. Mixie Fox and some other characters, and they're waiting for him in there. And this has changed from what I initially had. I mean, you can kind of see that in the animation that I have on my website if you guys go check it out. But
so basically, the story is that Bif is up against this bovine society of
well, they have history. They have a little bit of history, and he's kind of like a space ranger that can't space range. Basically, it's just like I'm out in space and my ship broke. I'm stuck. So, but it's. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like I come up with the Bovine Society, and it's just like you got these pigs that are like Klingons. They're my version of Klingons, and they got spikes on like spike collars and all these stuff. And there's like a like a warthog. He's got these big gnarly, fangs and stuff, and husks and whatnot, and he winds up having all kinds of altercations and stuff with the Bovine Society. And the one thing he has actually, I'm trying to think what the name of this stuff is, but it's an actual liquid that you give cows that have like the certain disease, cow disease. And the bovine, the guy that's in the bar, that's what he's drinking, is this actual it's a big jar of it. Yeah, because he's at the bar, and when Biff walks in, he's at the bar, and you'll see him he's over his shoulder, like I'm the character, and he's over his shoulder walking towards him. But he'll take a swig out of it and stuff, and it's just like you got to be really on top of researching what he's actually drinking for it to be funny, I guess. But yeah.
So you're bringing bovine humor to the masses. So like,
I just like what would be ridiculous to put in this. That's always my thinking with anything I'm doing. It's like what kind of crazy junk can I put in here that is just off the wall that just can make people chuckle? So, I mean, that's really what my main goal is to make people laugh and have a good time with it. So,
well, I have to say that we're like listening to this, it's just like unique Brad humor that we're bringing.
Well, I mean, and you got to be when you do that sort of thing, you got to be real subjective, because what I might find funny, somebody else might not. But everything Jason and I've been pitching at people when we're trying to sell the thing to gain some interest. I mean, everybody acts like pretty much like you are. It's like, well, I'm intrigued. I want to see more of it. But what is the one thing out of the 4 IPs that I'm going to have in the book that's going to be that catalyst that's going to be like, hey, I want some more of that. So, but I feel like everything's like even keel, that there one isn't one over the other, that it all has its place in the world. So if that makes any sense. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's we'll talk a little bit about that a little later on, but that's the beauty of doing the anthologies, because you can kind of like propose or show like all these little snippets of the universe, and then see what resonates with people, and that way you don't have to totally invest in something that maybe isn't
right.
going to take off, type thing.
Well, I mean, I want to, I mean, like, we also have another book called Rebel Hauser. I don't know if you got that image or not, but I have a print next to me here. It's this here.
Oh, actually, let me minimize for a second. Hold on one second. And oops. All right, so you want to show that real quick?
We have this that we were. This was the key thing that Jason and I were working on initially. It's Rebel Hauser Monster Hunter.
Right.
And it was based off. I do a lot of skateboard designs for a company out of Pennsylvania, and that's his brother. The main character is his brother, and then his cousin is the guy with the beard. And then I came up with Tucker the Trucker. That, I'm going to tell you how he died. It's pretty ridiculous. So,
oh no, you should even told us that he died, because that way.
Well, he's a zombie. He's a zombie.
He's a zombie.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I didn't get that image, so I don't know too much about it. But I guess he's dead, but that's a part of his character, because he's
and then I've got, of course, Sasquatch in the back there. Here, let's see, it's right.
All right, let me put that back up. Hold on a second. Let me get your screen. There you go.
But yeah, there's Sasquatch back here. And there's aliens actually in there too. They're down at the bottom right by his hand down there.
Right.
Right here. But anyway, it's another ridiculous concept that we come up with, and Jason's not one to do it right now because there's so much of that out there. Like the Monster Hunter stuff's out there already. I told him, I said, I don't want to just completely ignore it. I want to come back to it, but that's where he and I really got kind of used to working with each other, trying to figure something out. So that was kind of the catalyst to what we're doing now. But he's like, every time I do something, and it's like every time I do something, he's like, man, this is great. I want to work on this one. So that one gets put to the back, and then and I says, and I had a conversation with him day before yesterday. I says, listen, I know you're kind of frustrated with, sorry. I know you're kind of frustrated with working on more than one thing at a time, but we can't ignore one thing that we were working on to work on. I understand that we got all this other stuff, but that Western is really what I've been wanting to work on that again. And so that's what kind of where our focus is going to be after we finish the sampler, is to basically get back into Westbrook. So
I'm looking forward to talking about Westbrook in terms of like where that's going to go, because that's a pretty intriguing story.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like it. I mean, I see Westerns, but they're just a traditional Western without the secondary element that I put in it.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be another tease. You got to stick around for the end of the show so we can tell you about Westbrook. But since we are drawing Bif here,
yes.
What can you tell us a little bit more about Bif that isn't spoilery, that's going to whet the appetites for people to like want to check out, the story?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to approach it differently artistically, as far as like mixing the 3D and the 2D together, because I don't see a
Hmm.
lot of that either. I'm trying to utilize refresh some of my skills on the modeling and the animating and all that stuff, because I'd like to be able to do uh, an animated short for the Kickstarter.
Hmm.
And uh, as story wise, though, I mean, I have tons of ideas. I mean, I've got, yeah, it's endless. It's like a lot of, going into the Flash Gordon stuff,
Yes, that's
you
what I was
know.
gonna like. I was gonna lead into in terms of like we talked
Yeah.
about Sam Jones and how I thought this had like a definite Flash Gordon vibe to it. So was
Mhm.
that it? That was that an inspiration as well? Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, how can you not be influenced by that Sam Jones Flash Gordon? I mean, that just, it seemed cheesy, and it still seems a tad bit cheesy, but you're never going to make that film again. They could never make that again if they wanted to. I mean, there was so many
mhm.
great elements to that may have been cheesy, but I don't think they could reproduce that movie if they wanted to.
I have
Uh,
to agree. Yeah, I mean, it was campy. There were some really
mhm.
dark parts to it as well. But who could forget that scene with the Baron, or when he was when they had to stick their hands
Oh
into
yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh my gosh! Thinking about it. I remember watching that as a little kid, and I was like cringing. It's like that with that scorpion monster
Oh
that's
yeah.
inside that
I
pit
could
or
never
whatever
do
that.
it because I got a phobia of that sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna. You can have that. It's like,
So, but yeah, but it had like I mean, people don't some people don't remember that Timothy Dalton was in that. Who later on went on to do James Bond, and
uh huh.
there was a he also did what was that he was also in the uh, I'm having it's a horror show that was on Showtime. It was uh, I can't remember what it is, but it was a horror show that brought all the classic monsters together. Penny Dreadful. Did you ever watch
Oh,
that Penny
okay.
Dreadful?
Okay. I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever
Yeah,
watched
I highly recommend it. It's really really good, but it just they basically the studio wanted to end the show really quickly, and the writers had to like totally like tie up all the loose ends, and I just felt like it lost all its potential in terms of like where it could have gone with it. But
it. Yeah.
I do like what you're doing with Bif Milestone. There's some obvious Flash Gordon references in there too, and I like his design. I mean, the pronounced chin. It's like he's like
And,
Superman in
and
space.
if you look at
Yeah.
this image, you can imagine him turning his head, and you hear when you drag your finger across the glass and the smearing, like he can't turn his head without his chin going. So
I never thought about that. That is so true, though. He would have that thing happen to him. So, but it's like you're able to exaggerate all these things. I mean, it's almost like he embodies a lot of the superhero archetypes. Like he has like a Superman kind of look to him, but he's in space and he has the Flash Gordon retro style outfit
uh-huh.
or spacesuit. Yeah, I think you're onto something here with it. I think it's going to hit those nostalgic feels for a lot of people
Well,
that
I
grew up.
love this. I love like 50s and 60s sci-fi. Just there's nothing getting away with it. Away from it. It's just like I like the fact that they're trying to implement some of that back into Star Trek.
Mhm.
With Strange New Worlds. That's one of my probably my favorite Star Trek up to date. So,
Oh,
uh,
really? So
oh
it gets
yeah.
your endorsement? Because I had to say that I haven't been. I mean, effects wise, I like all the new series that they're coming up with, but story wise, I haven't been feeling a lot of the new Star Trek. But the new
Well,
one, Strange,
have you watched the Strange New Thing or Strange New
not
World?
yet, not
It's
yet. So
actually not bad because it reminds me of the original series a lot. And my favorite movie is Forbidden Planet. Uh, you
Forbidden
know, uh,
Planet.
Forbidden Planet is that's where Roddenberry got a lot of the beaming and a lot of kind of the ideas for the beaming down to a planet and all that stuff because they go into this beaming thing where they go into like molecule chamber type thing when they enter the planet and stuff in Forbidden Planet. So that's where Roddenberry, I think he even said he was influenced by it. So, those are the kind of things that I absolutely love. Is like nostalgia, retro, all that stuff. That's where a lot of the details that are in this this character come from. I do. First thing is I tell anybody is do what you love to do, and it'll show.
Right.
So, that's what they used to do in the Looney Tunes stuff, and which is a big, huge influence on me as well. The Tex Avery and Chuck Jones and all those guys. That's what got me into want to do the animation stuff was a lot of that, but a lot of that type of stuff was 2D, which have gotten away from it with all the technology that's out there. And I'm hoping that the rumors are true that they're going to start implementing more of that back into Disney, because I don't think it's Disney without that stuff. So,
yeah, I know that there was a little bit of resistance there for a while, that, going from that growing pains of going from traditional cell shade stuff to like the 3D animation stuff that they're doing now. But now it's so iconic now. People are just used to Disney doing that. But it'd be kind of nice to see that fusion where you can kind of like do both.
Yeah, because I know when John Lasseter was still at
Pixar.
At Pixar, that they were actually gonna. He was trying to convince Disney, and he had them convinced for the most part on wanting to go back in and get a division put back together to do that. But I don't know how many people can actually do that stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's like a lost art, right?
Yeah.
And it's time consuming, to do.
Well, very much. I mean, but I this program, the clip will actually, you can animate in it. So, I mean, I don't know how you say his name, Saeed, or he just said he misses cell animation, and I'm just like, I do too. It's like, you cannot beat it. It's, Roger Rabbit, when they did that, I thought that was fantastic, and it just, you can't beat it. So,
I think it's kind of like art styles kind of repeat themselves. So especially when everything is 3D, it's kind of like somebody's going to come up with a way to make old traditional illustration or animation popular again, and make it viable where they can mix both, 3D and traditional.
Well, that's where I'm coming in at with Bif is those elements, putting them together to get what because I tried doing that in college, and I don't know, my brain wasn't in the right place to get it effectively done like I'm doing with this comic book. I don't know. He's got a good point. It's just he's saying that modern tech make it more quicker and productive.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go ahead. Actually, you've been looking at the comments. I'm gonna pull these up here so people will know what we're talking about. So Saeed, yeah, he's a guy who's been on our been on our audience for several shows. He says this looks interesting. Yes, it does. And he also says here, I missed the Discovery type sci-fi of that time. Yes, you're right. I when Brad was talking about classic Star Trek, I grew up on that. My dad was a big fan of the original Star Trek, and we actually still have all of them on Betamax. I can't even watch them anymore because I think our Betamax player is broken.
Wow, that's
but
impressive.
I have a shelf of just, my dad has a shelf in the guest bedroom of just classic Star Trek, and then let's look at some of the other comments here. We got Allison flexing her sci-fi knowledge. She was like saying it's Forbidden Planet equals the Tempest in space. So yes. Let's see. Saeed saying, I missed the cell animation type. That is so true. And here we have Saeed again. I believe with modern tech, they make it more quicker and productive. Yeah, there's budgets now, and budgets are crazy. I don't know if you Brad, have you heard about like what it costs to do like an episode of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi? They have
Oh,
like
I can only imagine.
they're like movie budgets. It's incredible.
But have you
Yeah,
seen
so
the way they see the way they do talking about Star Wars? You see the way they produce Mandalorian backgrounds
yeah,
and the lighting and stuff. If you haven't
yeah,
checked that out, they've got that on Disney Plus on the behind the scenes stuff, and they
uh-huh.
have LED screens and they have them on top of them and they have them surrounding them.
Yeah,
So they can
I did.
they can look out, they can make them look like they're outside when they're in a studio. It's unreal.
Yeah, I did watch that, and it's neat because I guess from a budget stand, I mean, I don't know which is cheaper. I think it might be faster because it may not be cheaper, but building traditional sets, expensive, time consuming. But
Yeah.
when you can do a wraparound environment, it's like the X-Men Danger Room or the
Yep.
holodeck on the Enterprise, on the next generation Enterprise, where they can just build an environment that looks totally immersive and it's complete with lighting effects, so it looks like they're in the environment. And unlike CG, where it's green screen, you have to be very aware of what the lighting of your character looks like, because if you superimpose a background on the green screen, they'll look obviously out of place because the lighting doesn't match up.
Right.
But when you do an entire immersive environment where the LED background is lighting everything, it just looks that great. Yeah, that's so cool. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know our time has expired. Do you need a little bit more time, or do you want to?
We can go another couple minutes and.
Okay, I'm going to put 5 more minutes on the clock. And to our audience that's possibly drawing with us, and I'm talking to you, Allison. Hopefully, you can draw something too. And you got 5 more minutes. I'm going to look at the chat real quick while turning a blind eye to what you're drawing because I want to be surprised when you're done. Saeed says here he also loves Star Trek. I have to say that there's such a clash. I think you and I, Brad, we're atypical. It's almost like they have camps of people that say you got to be Star Trek, you got to be Star Wars. It's
I'm
like why
both.
why not like them both, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you had I'm saying that you can like them both, but if you had to pick between one or the other, like if you were on a desert island and you could only watch Star Trek or Star Wars, what would it be?
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
I just like it better. So,
but it's also, I have to put a caveat though. It has to be the original trilogy, George Lucas, Star Wars, because I have to say that there are parts of the Disney Star Wars universe that I like, but not the whole thing. The the sequel trilogy is probably the best example of.
I can't believe they're actually making more of that. I
Are
honestly
they?
can't. Yeah, there's 3 more movies. Yep, it was because you realize that Lucas's vision for that was 12 episodes in total, but they destroyed the whole concept of what Lucas came up with the last 3. There was rumor going around that they were going to put those into like another alternate universe and then redo those 3 movies.
No. They're going to do
and I'm like,
in Star Wars? No
yeah,
way.
They were going to do that. There was a rumor going around. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
No, just tell a new story. And I think they're doing that with the High Republic. I think at least in the comic books, I think they're doing that. I don't know if that's going to come up in the movie universe, but
yeah, I don't know. I think they were going to end Kathleen Kennedy's contract, and then now she's in charge of a lot more stuff than she was. Maybe she was like, "Give me a second chance." I would have been like, "No, you got one chance."
No,
that was it.
Please, no. I have to say from the Disney universe of Star Wars movies, I think my favorite one of those is probably Rogue One, which is interesting because that's not a a Skywalker story. I mean, what did you think of out of all the Disney movies from the Star Wars, which ones was your favorite?
Rogue One out of the new ones it stands alone, and Solo to me was great, but I don't know why Ron Howard can do no wrong in my book.
Yeah.
And I wanted more Darth Maul, and we were going to get that, and then they were like, "Well, the fans said no." So
What? Which fan did they talk to? That's
I
what
don't know, but the foul response they got from Solo, they decided not to, because it was originally going to be 3 movies,
Oh
and
no,
and
I
it was
didn't
going to
know
be a
that.
trilogy on its own, and then it's just like, yeah. So
Ah,
I'm
I would
like,
have.
you need to go
Yeah.
back and let Ron Howard have a little bit more control. If you think that was terrible, then maybe you ought to reconsider the other 2 movies and make those. But I thought, and the guy that played Han Solo won't do it again. I guess they just need to get into somebody new to do it.
Yeah, I have to say that I enjoy Solo. It had its faults itself, but
Hmm.
overall, it had its. I think it had
It
its
did.
pluses,
It definitely
more
didn't
pluses.
deserve. It didn't definitely didn't deserve the bashing that it got in my book. So
Well, it had the challenge of following up after the Last Jedi, and you know what
uh,
the mess that was, and unfortunately, I think it stole any potential acceptance because there was a lot of vitriol that was going around. And it's I'm not gonna like say about my my particular feelings about that, but it was
well,
one of those things. Is that yeah, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea. That's what we're gonna
well,
say.
I mean, I just wish people would approach it with a little bit more reverence than just saying, "Hey, that sucks. Let's not do any more of it." I mean, it could always be
Yeah,
improved on. Improved on. I mean, so.
yeah. They just totally. I think it was more of a contrarian storytelling. It's like we're just going to dismiss everything that was ever done just for the sake of
Well, I love
the
the
tradition.
comment that Kathleen Kennedy made, that she said there was no real anything to pull from to make any new movies, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. There's just a
What?
whole lot. Yeah, she said that. She said that. I'm like, you are out of your mind. There's tons of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to go there. We'll leave it at that. And that being
Yeah.
said, we are at our time limit right now.
Okay.
So, heck, I'm looking at your stuff, and I'm looking like I feel like I'm like watching those videos of they call it the masters at Disney. They think at
Uh,
the traditional, and I feel like I'm looking at a cell shaded thing. And even though it's you're doing some digital techniques, I like what you're doing. I feel like I'm getting an inside look in terms of something being built in 3D. This looks
Yeah, well,
incredible.
it really helps to have that knowledge of a 3D software and to go into Illustrator, or for that matter to do it in Clip Studio, is you can sit there and use your vector circles and stuff and build that, and then I have well, that's supposed to lay on his shoulder, so I just will connect all of that with lines eventually and just kind of merge that all together and just build upon that, because that's how I usually make the collars anyway. So
Yeah, that looks cool. Can you zoom out?
yeah,
Let's see what you. Oh man, look at that. If I, I mean,
that's a little bit better than the other one. So
oh whatever. Yeah, but I'm looking at this. This, I mean, looks like you could like a foundation for a 3D model. Like you could cut the joints out, and
mhm.
this could be a Biff toy. I could totally see this. Like he has those Masters of the Universe kind of proportions. So it looks really really good.
Well, you
But
talk about Master of the Universe. That's another thing. I know those new one, the Revelations, was okay, but I like the other 3D one better on
mhm.
Netflix. I don't know if you watched both of those or not, but
Yeah.
I'm glad they're bringing that back.
Uh-huh. What was that? You're glad what's being brought back? I missed. I didn't.
Master of the Universe.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, I I'm glad they brought it back because it's to me that's also a nostalgic favorite. But what Kevin Smith did with it, at least I watched the first couple episodes, and I like how they're the updated looks of things. But I wasn't feeling the story as much, and I didn't
Well,
finish it. So I'm not going to. I'm not gonna. I can't make past judgment on it yet because I didn't watch the entire thing yet. So, but
the
yeah.
3D one I think is just stronger. It's just the characters are more
Oh,
rounded.
yeah, I see what you're talking
It's
about. You're talking about
mhm.
the 3D animated one, not the Kevin Smith one. The one
No.
that's more
Well, I
like
like
kids.
that one, and they're coming out with another chunk of Kevin Smith stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't know if I care for Mark Hamill as Skeletor in that one. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of his voice work, but it's just like I can tell that's Hamill in that role, which I couldn't do with Joker.
The Joker.
Joker
Yeah.
was insane. So
That was probably his best voice acting role because it's like you didn't know. I mean, I didn't know it was him until much later.
yeah.
Um, and it's just like Luke Skywalker is the Joker. I mean, that's what totally blew my mind. But
If you go to my my Facebook page, I have he did a conversation between Luke and the Joker.
uh,
He sat on stage at San Diego Comic-Con and was sitting there doing this whole conversation and this will go back to Kevin. When I first met Kevin, he was at a show with Scott Peterson, used to be a editor or a publisher at DC, and Scott had taken his when we used physical taped uh, voice voice recorders, the answering machines. And Kevin says he gave me his number and he said, call it. If he picks up, hang up. But I want you to listen to his answer machine. He had taken it to Mark Hamill at a show and said, can you do the Joker for me? And I want to use that as my answer machine message. And he goes, and I'm sitting here listening to this, and he goes, Mark, he's like, I'm not here right now. He says, I'm gonna come back, and he's like, I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. I can't believe he got Mark to do that for him. It's like, that just goes to show you what he's just, he's all tied up in a corner. He's like, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I was like, I would love to have that on my answer machine.
Oh yeah, I think. Well, for anything from Mark Hamill to be on your answer machine, I think that would be pretty cool. But him to do like a Joker, that would be incredible. I'm gonna go through some of these comments here because
okay.
When we were both drawing, I didn't get a chance to pop them up. So I think we showed this. Saeed said he loves Star Trek. We also had him come back here and say, "Does this look like Filmation style?" I guess it could be. I think that I'm not sure when he commented about this, but I think the stuff that you're doing, Brad, I think it could, depending on how you render it, it could be a Filmation style. It could be a 3D style. It could be a 3D Disney style. I think that your characters lend themselves to so many different techniques. I mean, we showed it, and to me, it looked like heavy metal. It'd be kind of cool. Heavy metal did their own cartoon movie. Very, very cool. Here we have
Allison. They don't do more of that, honestly.
Well, I think that you're a little bit of a soothsayer. I think there's going to be a return, a renaissance of like classical animation that maybe is going to make a return. There'll be like some aspects of it that will be 3D, but I think there's going to be a return to that just because history kind of like repeats itself. Trends come back, and maybe you might see that happen. Allison also said here, they are not doing that. I have a lot of inside info on Star Wars. I think she was talking about the next sequel trilogy. So I think she was saying.
If you got the insight on that, thank you. I don't want to see that anymore.
That is true. I think it just leave the Rey Skywalker Palpatine story, just that's done, buried in the sands of Tatooine.
I enjoyed it because it was Star Wars, but I didn't enjoy it that as much as I would love to have had. I just episode what was it, 7, when they come back with it at the beginning, and I just was like, that's episode 4 redone and you're just changing a few things.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just was like, you ain't fooling nobody by doing that. So
it was New Hope version 2.0. Yeah. But
lazy writing.
And I think here Saeed was referring to Kathleen Kennedy. It's like, funny thing, she should know better working for George Lucas originally. That's true. Kathleen Kennedy, I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, the very first one. And Kathleen Kennedy was involved with that. I mean, she's been with Lucas for like
I'm not
decades.
saying,
Yeah.
she may have tremendous amount of talent, but she did when it comes to Star Wars and the way she approached it, it was like, no.
Yeah. True. True.
You give Filoni and
Oh,
you
and
give those
Favreau.
guys the reins on it.
Favreau.
If
Yeah.
Favreau and those guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be questioning them as much as they do somebody else. It's like give them the reins to it, let them
Yeah.
do what they want to with it, and just go with it. Because I love
Amen.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Mandalorian ain't
Book
doing
of
no wrong.
Boba was a little bit weird, but we won't go there. It's like,
Well, I mean, they made him a softie, and they shouldn't have. He should
yeah.
have been a badass. He should have just killed everybody and
Right.
their brother, and they landlocked him, which was another
It was
problem.
weird. Yeah, and they made Fennec Shan more of the Boba Fett character, which is I don't know. I like her character. I just thought that should have been Boba. You know,
I think Phil, he's not here anymore, but he brought up a point on a conversation he was having about it the other day. He says Mandalorian is Boba Fett, and they couldn't repeat that, so they had to do something different with him.
Yeah, I think I heard
make
that.
him. I think more ruthless. I think could have been a good angle to go rather than make him softer. So
yeah. I'm going to agree with Saeed. I like Solo too. It gets a lot of hate, but I think it was okay. He also says, Allison says, Solo underperformed, so they canceled the rest. Yeah, I know. I would have liked to have seen more Solo stories. I heard there's a rumor that they might be doing a Lando TV series where
that's all up to Glover, from what I understand.
Yeah.
He's got to be the one that says yes, I'll do it, and then they'll go with it.
I would like to, because that would allow them to tell more of the scum and villainy stories. You know, like they open it up with him. I think one of my friends told me, he said, I don't know if it was his idea or if he read it was a potential premise. Every episode of Lando series would be him opening up at the sabak table and playing cards, and then he goes, "Well, let me tell you a story," and he's like, you know, telling the Lando story, and it would go into like all these little like far outer rim story type stuff. And I'd like to hear how Aura Singh bit the dust. You know, they hinted at that in Solo. But with Beckett, you know, he was talking about how, getting Aura Singh's demise. Of course, they won't be able to chance to talk about that. So I'm kind of sad. Here we get, let's say, Saeed is also saying here, better than the sequel movies. Yeah, that's true.
Well, anything can. I mean, you're setting that bar pretty low. Yeah. When it comes to those three movies, I mean, you're gonna everything else is gonna be like, boom! Hey, we did much better. I'm like, of course you did.
When the bar is so low, you can only go up, right? All right, and I think Sarah here, it says Sarah's always been drawing with. As usual, I have no idea what shows you guys are talking. Oh, that's okay, Sarah. We'll catch up. It's all Star Wars geek nerd stuff. But you know, Sarah has been like taking classes, and so she hasn't been able to draw along with us. But yeah, we just wrapped up our second drawing, and you know, you can see right now this is the Bif Milestone character. You know, if you want to watch the video a little later on, Sarah, on your own time, on demand, you can draw and post to the art show the two characters that we drew from Brad's universe. So here we go. I'm finishing up the comments. It looks like Allison has drawn along with us. So let me pull up her artwork, and we can take a gander at that. And just to say that, you know, Brad, I love what you did with it, with your piece. I'd love to see that. It looks like that could be a toy. That's like the model for a toy. So you gotta like finish that up so we can see that finished piece. All right, so let's share what Allison did. Allison, oh man, look, I'm gonna show you what she did. And you're gonna love this, Brad. Now, she didn't do Biff. She actually, at a glimpse, she saw the Fox character, and look what she did.
Oh, awesome.
And she did a background. I don't know if that background was pre-rendered or what.
She's cheating.
Yeah, if you drew that earlier, that's okay. I forgive you. Because
hey, whatever you got to do. Hey, you know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it adds to it, and I love it. I love that you did another character, and heck, you know, you might want to get in touch with Brad. Maybe you can do some more pinups of what's her name? Her name is
Mixie Fox.
Mixie Fox.
Mixie Fox.
Very,
yeah.
Very,
yeah.
very cool.
add me, and if I've got room for it, when we get to the not the sampler, but another, I might consider it.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna. We're all fans, and here, I encourage you, Brad, later on, just go into the comment field after the show, and you can interact with Allison, and maybe there might be an opportunity. If anything, you guys can just connect, and
That's what it's all about, really. I mean, it's just like, even if we just talk, it's, we give each other advice. That's really what it comes down to. It's what may work for me may not work for her, or what works for her but there's some in between there. That's the reason why I try to interact with everybody that I meet at shows and stuff. I've had people come up and ask me to critique what they're working on. I'm happy to do that. I enjoy that tremendously. I ask friends of mine, the sampler was an ash can before we went to Planet with an ash can, and showed that to everybody that I know, and got some really good feedback of what to add to it and whatnot, and what to add to it to give somebody a better understanding of what we're trying to put forth in front of people. It's like, but of course I left the printing up to Jason, and nothing against Jason, but I got the book in my hand, and I was like, I really don't want to hand that thing out. It was pretty horrendously looking. I mean, it was not my artwork, but it was just the way it was printed. It's got to be the top 100% of the best thing you can do all the way through, right up until it hits the hands of somebody else. So
yeah, you want to give that really, because you never get a chance to make a first impression again, right? And that's what you want to do. And that's
the other reason. That's the other reason for a sampler. It's like I want to put the best effort I possibly can. If I can do better, then I would like to hear that back from the people that are buying it.
Well, I think that when the sampler drops, and we're going to talk about that now that we've wrapped up all these drawing challenges, I just want to let everybody know, if you are in the audience and you want to draw these characters, let me know in the comment field. We can show that, but you can also do it on demand and post it to the art show. Brad will check it out, give you some tips, maybe be able to connect with him. And it's one of those things, is that you get a chance to interact with our guests. If you go to the comment field and be able to do that after the show. So, or actually even now, when you can pop it up. So I'm going to show, I guess, my art piece, and then we'll go ahead and move to the latter part of the show. So let me show this real quick, and it's going to get your thoughts on this, Brad. So here we go. So
that's cool. That reminds me of, I don't remember Captain Stubing from Kitchen Sink.
No, I don't remember that.
That's actually kind of what reminds me of, is Captain Stubing.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to look that up. But again, I think I need to go to my blue period like you and start exaggerating anatomy too. But the thing is,
I dig it. I dig it a lot. So it's like, I like Allison's too. It's like, what I see is like, I like to see the different takes on this stuff. It's pretty cool, actually. So
when you come up with characters that are this good, it makes people want to draw them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So
and that being said, let's go ahead and minimize. I'm going to take your art cam here, and we can go larger screen here. Completed our drawing challenges, and thank you for all of our audience that was commenting and letting us know what your thoughts were with all the conversation, as well as Allison. Thank you so much for drawing with us. And the invitation is open to our guests if they want. Our audience, if they want to draw along, let us know. Post it to the art show. Okay, so we've done all the live drawings. Let's talk about the future. And the future is this anthology. We've been talking about this on and off throughout the show. And we have the Mighty Tim, we have Westbrook, we have Bif Milestone, not Millstone. We have Angus, and what was the other one? Oh, we have Rebel Hauser. So those are 5.
Well, Rebel probably out next year, probably sometime. We got to rework some stuff because Jason's not happy with. He says it reminds him too much of what else is out there, and I want to listen to that. So if it's a cookie cutter thing, which I don't think so, because there's a lot of stuff in there that I mean, it's coming from here. It's not coming from somewhere else. The elements that I have for that thing. So,
Uh-huh.
things might influence it, but when I influence it, like I say, I try to make sure that those things are mine, not
Hmm.
you know
I totally get it.
an
You
echo.
want to, if you're going to put it out there, you want uh, ownership of it. You want it to be the best it can be. And even when you're working with Jason, you want to be able to have that same
See, I
standard.
mean, he can only get so far with me because sometimes I'm like, it's hard to read me. Sometimes it's like like I told you with Westbrook,
Uh-huh.
the stuff that we want to do in the first issue of that coming out, because we're doing the prologue and the why the first book takes place, and we're going to do it where Westbrook, it'd be Westbrook in the first issue, and then the second issue will be another character entirely that goes through something
Oh,
similar. So
okay.
it's going to continue on, but it'll be like the Crow, and
Uh-huh.
there's different type. We talked about this the other night, where well, how can we go? Where I'm
Build on
thinking
it.
I'm going to
Yeah.
have Westbrook. He turns into like this animal effigy, basically, and he moves on,
Uh-huh.
and that character he's the character that wanders into the other book and carries the book on, but
Hmm.
then you're introduced to this other character that Death now has
Yeah.
given
Okay. Okay.
Death.
Right. 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 Actually, I think we're getting ahead here because I have the benefit of the pre-show that I did with you, so I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
our audience doesn't. So let's do this. Let's do 1,000 foot interviews. I mean interviews, overviews
Okay.
of the characters and the IPs that are going to be in the anthology. Or you call the
Okay.
sampler, I call it the anthology. Same thing, and it's basically
Well, it's the same
yeah.
thing basically. We just the sampler was kind of
Right. It's the
a
same.
yeah.
It's to give everybody a taste of this Brad Jason universe and it's going to give you an idea. It's going to give you a metric to measure the interest and to see if you want to keep on pursuing it. And I think it's a brilliant tactic because it allows you to, one, as a creative, get that story up, get it produced. Jake Parker, he's one of the guys that I follow. He has a statement. It's like finished, not perfect. You gotta get it finished. Got to get it out there because if it only exists in your head, no one's gonna know how wonderful or how terrible it is. You know.
As one of my instructors said in school, those are your babies, and sometimes this has maybe come off a little wrong, but sometimes you just have to kill the baby in order to move on from it. It's like you gotta have some detachment from it at some point,
uh,
or you're just gonna go and regurgitate and regurgitate and
yeah,
regurgitate.
I get what
You
you're
gotta.
talking about. That's a little bit of a strong a strong
It's
statement.
yeah. Well, he's the way he put it to me, and I'm like, that's a bit
Definitely, it's gonna.
strong, but yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
what you're saying. So
But that's the thing. Okay, so let's start with Westbrook because we hinted at that artwork. In fact, let me go ahead and start talking. Give us your 1,000 foot overview, and I'm going to bring up that Westbrook art while you just give
well,
us a brief idea of what that is.
okay. Basically, the prologue takes place in a small town. Initially, it was Abilene, but I think I'm going to probably change that up. But it takes place in a small town with these guys. It starts out in the bar, the saloon basically, and they're having a card game, and they brought in one of the guys brings in because they need a fifth or sixth person for this bank robbery that they're pulling off. So they bring in Westbrook, and none of these guys, but Adolfo, I believe is his name, and he brings in Westbrook to introduce him to the gang, and he to be their final person they need in
Their fifth guy. Yeah.
their fifth guy basically. And they go through and they promise him there'll be no death in the bank. Well, things happen, get out of hand. They annihilate everybody in the bank.
Uh-huh.
They ride out of town in a stagecoach. They get into this cavern to go over their winnings or their robbery and all their gains, ill-gotten gain basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Westbrook's upset. He's clearly upset. He's trying to he's trying to saddle his horse and get out of there and get away from those guys because he wants nothing to do with them. Well,
Mhm.
anyway, they frame him. They kill him. They put him in the ground, and they basically want nobody to as a witness, and they feel he's going to be a whistleblower, so they kill him, and then so that ends that part, and then you cut to a scene uh, where he's coming up out of the ground. Death has garnered him 24 hours to as for a revenge against these other members of this gang,
Right.
and so he gives him his form back, and because he's pretty gnarly and he looks a lot like with this picture coming up
Uh,
out of the ground, and it's a horror and horror book basically, takes place in a western, and to me I've never seen that, and I thought that would be a interesting angle to go on this book.
mhm.
And but anyway, as he gets his revenge and takes out all these guys, he reverts back to his
Yes.
rotted form
Mhm.
every time. And the last thing he says, the conversation between the last guy and him, he's like, "Dust to bones," and he goes, and he says, "I'll see you in hell, you bee," and he's like. And he basically sticks the gun to his head and shoots him, and it puts a hole in it. And he's like, boom, and it's like, and then so
Uh-huh.
you're and then he winds up screaming because he transforms back into his skeletal form, so he's losing
Mhm.
his soul and everything. So we're trying to figure out exactly what kind of a tie-in we can do where he's back in his skeletal form, but then death gives him the option to become
Mhm.
something more, and carries that on into another book so that we can
Yeah.
continue that strand, because I think it's a really good idea. And you talked about earlier about doing like things that tie in together, and I got another book called the Retribution of Anime Cleave, that I it's a Civil War book, and I would like to have that tie
Ah,
into
yeah.
this somehow, where Anime Cleave is the wife of this general, and her husband is uh, basically executed at Gettysburg, or shot, or dies at Gettysburg from the battle. So she's in such mourning from his death that she digs him up after the funeral, and takes his body to tried to bring him back through a voodoo priestess, and the voodoo priestess in her doings does a enchantment that doesn't bring her husband back, but brings back a demon, and
Mhm.
that demon rises up out of the coffin, and looks straight at her with these ice cold eyes, and then he hovers over to her and just basically has his hand out like this, and there's all this you know condensation coming off of him, and his eyes are just dead as to the world, and grabs him and runs his face down her cheek. And but anyway, by bringing him back,
Uh-huh.
like bringing the demon back like that, he now has entrapped her in a spell. So it takes a brigade of Confederate soldiers and this priest to go in, and because it winds up in this cave, and he's entrapped
Uh-huh.
some of the townsfolk in this evil spell, and they're doing all his bidding and stuff. But as the battle goes on, that's what feeds the monster in the cave,
Mhm.
and he becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Not to go off on a tangent on another one, but this is kind of like a tie into this kind of sort of.
It's a
So
foundation of where these could tie in together. And I think
yeah,
I almost want to like stop you because I think you're giving away too much of the story. And I think
yeah.
that
I'd like
but I
to
think
share that. That's
yeah,
like I wrote that.
uh,
It's like a five
it's
page book
it
in
it's
itself. So
it sounds intriguing, and I think that even though you given some of the finer points. I know there's because I think that we talked yesterday about it. It's like there's the Native American influence that you're going to try and weave in there. There's some of the more folklore of the West that you want to like put in there. And I think and then you have the art. Look at this art. So I think that when this anthology drops, you're going to get to see the visual storytelling of what Brad talked about. And he didn't give away everything. I think it's there. There's more to it. So
there's
let's talk
more
a little
to it, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. And I think that let's without giving spoilers now, I just want you to give some overviews. We want to tease this. Let's talk a little bit about the Mighty Tim. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so basically with Tim is like I came up with the concept for him, and it's like, and I started like backing off a little bit with this being completely me, and just kind of basically going, Jason, okay, well, what do you want to call him? And I'm like, and this has happened twice. It's like this. He puts these ridiculous names on these characters. It's like I would have never come up with Tim.
You would
And
have come
he's
up with
like,
Kevin.
yeah, but
I feel you. Yeah.
But the thing of it is the things he's got planned past all of this. It's just basically I gave him a premise. It's like, okay, well, rather than because we just want to do a small story, just do a premise. This is kind of what I would suggest anybody do if they're trying to come up with an idea for sequentials. It's like, okay, you've got an idea of okay, they're out Halloween trick or treating, and you want to, and something happens to these three children, the boy in the little dragon suit, and then his brother and sister at the bottom. They're out trick or treating and they're having a good time, and they're not supposed to be out; they're supposed to be at home, and this guy in the car is driving radically through the streets, and and he passes Tim. He's out mowing his lawn. He's like, hey, what's going on here? It's like, zoom. And so he manages to get from point A to point B to save these kids. And this is the last page in the book where he jumps out and stops the car. And then basically that's just the premise of the short story. But what Jason's got planned, he's got the and this is not a superhero, and so to speak, doesn't have all these supernatural powers. I would say he has super strength and maybe one other thing, but he's just an ordinary guy for the most part, and but I don't know where he's going to tie in on any of this, but he had like with space turkeys and some other stuff. But I'm like, dude, you're out there, and I think that's going to be pretty awesome.
Okay, well, I think the Mighty Tim premise. You told me that he's not the typical superhero, but the space turkey thing is intriguing. But I think
it's like, where are you going to go with that? It's like I don't. That's all he's told me about it. I'm like.
Okay. Well, I think that's part of the anthology. You get a chance to when the story is complete or the short story is complete. Your audience will get a chance to look at it and say, "Hey, is this something that's going to captivate me and grab me and make me want to like pick up the next issue?" I think it's kind of neat. I like the style of this, and we'll have to see how that happens. Now, you didn't send me.
It goes back to sorry, but go ahead. It was the anime influence on this as well as what the style was, because if you look at the kids, that kind of got more anime look to them, and I was like, well, because Jason's wife Corinne, she's kind of our go-to. Is like, hey, what do you think of this? And she's
your editor,
she's
your editor in chief. Yeah,
I gave her credit in the Ash Cannon. We'll probably give her credit in the book for what her feedback, because it's like. She knows what she likes, and she's very, very direct and very honest about what she likes and what she doesn't like. And I would expect somebody close to the belt like that with Jason to be able to go, well, I don't like that. Well, that's a good indication. That's probably the weakling in the chain there, and be able to get in there and fix that. So,
yeah, well, it's good to have that kind of honesty among your team, because that way
Mm-hmm.
it allows you to get that better product out there. And I think by the time this drops, which I'm going to say that it's in production. When do you think that this is going to be ready to drop?
We're trying to go to print for about the 16th of July, and then the
Oh,
Kickstarter I'm hoping to be able to have ready to go by the end of July,
uh-huh.
maybe even into August.
Right. Not too far away. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna actually copy and paste your information again, so people can in our audience, if they want to connect with you and if they want to um, be in the know, that way they can when it's ready to drop, they'll be able to support Kickstarter, to check it out, see what it's
Did you
about.
did you get that link for the Facebook page that I put up?
I did, but it was an
Okay.
invitation, so I don't know how I could share that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward everybody to your, because it showed up in my on my wall as like, do you want to like follow it? So I don't know how I can like share that one. But I think if people will like and follow you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or your webpage, you can point them, to that. You can send them a link so that they can know
Well,
when that.
if you follow me on like Instagram, then I can make sure you've got that link, and if when
Yeah.
you show up on it, I can accept it and all
Right.
that stuff. Because I would like to be able to have a catalyst for somebody to be able to get in on it before the Kickstarter. That way, you guys can see what kind of uh, see what kind of extra stuff we're going to do. A lot of like what Brian Paluto does with his Kickstarters, and give a lot of free stuff in tiers and stuff as it goes
Mhm.
along, and as it builds up, you'll get a lot of swag
The
behind it.
rewards, yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that's the beauty of, because I think that the Kickstarter model is definitely one it's a great voice for indie creators to get their works out there. But one of the bonuses is that, aside from the issue, if there are stretch goals, if there are rewards, then you'll get something that goes beyond just supporting the book. So very, very cool stuff. So we're getting the show is I knew this was going to happen. We are going to keep on talking, and we're approaching the 3 hour mark. So
Woo.
I think I could easily talk to you for another hour. We could talk and we could draw along, but I think let's go ahead and start like steering this, because I want to get to the point where we get to hear your final thoughts. And this is where we come to this part of the show, which is called the Oscar speech. And you don't have to worry about it. We're not going to do a Will Smith thing here. so but I think it's one of those things. This is the opportunity for you. I'm going to give the mic back for you to just give your final thoughts, your thank yous, your shout outs. Talk, we really talk about the future, but if you have any other additional things you want to talk about the future, please do that. I did share your social media in the comments field, so I'm going to let our audience know if you want to get in touch with Brad, whether it's to do commissions or to know when he's ready to drop his anthology with his partner Jason, which is coming in mid-July. It's probably going to launch at the end of July on Kickstarter. Like, subscribe, follow Brad so that you can be in the know. But here, hand the mic over to you. Let's hear your Oscar speech. So
Well, just you want to know what I'm getting ready to do in the future, or is that
you
what?
can wrap all those things together. Yep.
Um, yeah, basically, I've got tons of stuff I'm wanting to put out. It's just like so if you follow me, I mean, it's going to be well worth it. I mean, first of all, I want to thank everybody that popped in to watch this. I appreciate that a bunch. So, um, I can't believe, I've been working so hard at a lot of stuff, but it's so rewarding to be able to get start getting this stuff out to people so that they can kind of see how my brain works a little bit. It can be kind of a scary place. So, um, you know, um, I've got tons of stuff to do. We're probably going to do another sampler next year. We're probably going to, I know, even before the Kickstarter is over with for this, we hope to have the rest of Westbrook finished and ready to go, whether it be on my own self-publishing avenue. But I know I definitely will have a publisher by the time by the time that's all finished up. Um, you can go to my website actually and see what I was working on prior prior to all this, 6 years ago, I actually put that entire book half done on on my website under the sequential tab. So there's a little bit left there, but the thing is mutated in a little bit since I was working on that into something a little bit more substantial. Because, like I said, I wrote that in an hour and a half, and it really kind of started to show its weak points, and that's why I quit on it and worked on some other stuff. And uh, but yeah, I look forward to hearing feedback if anybody's got any once it's out, and what you guys kind of dig and what you don't like about it. I mean, I like to get some feedback on it within reason, though. I don't need nasty people after me. So
be respectful. Be respectful.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. But if you're an artist, and you want to draw some stuff, throw it at me. I mean, like I said, we got tiers and stuff that out of the Kickstarter, I might be able to give a few bucks out to an artist that might have another rendition of something that I'm doing that I'm all about helping promote other people too. That's what this industry is all about. It should be helping one another and be able to carry everybody forward. And, because that's what Jason and I, that's how we came together. It's like he he met me and I was helping somebody else. And then he was like, how do I get into that? I'm like, well, here you go. You can go through me and we carry that on. And that, he's been such a good friend to me that I don't regret any of that. So it's just like, it's a community on when it comes down to it, and we can all help each other out. So,
yeah, that's great. I love your Oscar speech because, aside from you showing gratitude to your partner Jason, it's like also talking about that inspirational message in terms of like helping one another, networking, and then helping one another because we need that positivity in the world, not only in the indie comics industry. So I'm so happy to have you here as a guest. And I want everybody to I put your website right there. Go there, and I'm sure that once you can find them on Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and show this right here. So this has I actually ran it all together, but you can see here after the Voth here, it's just on Facebook, Instagram, he's at Art of Voth, and then on Twitter, he's at Bradley Voth. So any way that you can contact him, that's how you can commission him. That's how you can find out what his future projects are.
And when we talk about commissions, I try to keep them fairly reasonable. So
yeah,
I see people with $500 or $600 on a drawing, and I'm like, that's insane.
Hey, well, you're going to get your money's worth. We got to show your artwork and the origin story, and it's incredible. So, that being said, this is where I had to shed the tear here because I'm going to have to start saying we're going to wind down the show and start saying goodbye. But before we do, I want to share one thing like we end all of our shows. So I'm going to show this real quick. So let me share one more screen and share this. And let me add this to the stream. So, okay, so this is I end the show with this always. It's basically a plug for our charity partner. We are not financially tied to them at all, and that organization is called Golden Fight. And what is Golden Fight? Go to goldenfight.org. Check them out. They are an organization that I like to say is big enough and small enough at the same time. Small enough in the sense that they are not nationwide. They have a very focused geographic area. It's my neck of the woods, which is the mid-Atlantic region of the United States. Now, what exactly do they do? This is where they are big. This is where they are huge. They are an organization that raises money for families who have children that are dealing with very difficult diseases like cancer. And when families are focusing on the healing of their child, inevitably they will experience financial difficulties. And that's where Golden Fight comes in. This is where they're huge. 100% of the money they raise, 100% goes to the families. Not even they don't even keep a small amount to just take care of administrative stuff because they know that what families are going through. They are doing this on volunteer basis because they've either known somebody or they've experienced these kind of hardships, so they know what it's like to go through this kind of circumstance. And we want to get the word out. If there is a charity that you're willing, that you want to like look at and just consider, Golden Fight. Go to goldenfight.org, check them out. Their mission is tremendous, and we just like to spread the word about them. So let me get that off the screen because I don't want to get too emotional when I'm talking about this stuff. But I want to have Brad here and on here one more time. So let me show his website. This is how you can get in touch with Brad. He's willing to work with you, try and get any, you saw his talent. He can do commissions for you, help you come up with new characters for your story. And we're going to have to look forward to his anthology, his sampler that's coming out end of July and August. And we're going to have you back on the show and with Jason, so you can talk a little bit more about that a little later on. So that being said, Comics Cast is going to say goodbye. And we've had a great time featuring Brad Voth. And
thanks for having me. So
happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Enjoy your Sunday, and we will see you soon. Talk to you later. Comics Cast out.